Right now that the YouTube stream has started, we have to stop listening to it. We have to stop listening to America. Sorry, folks. All right, so we don't have any. Yep, it's a normal stream. We don't have any plans. We don't have any thoughts. I went and got myself Splinter Cell Blacklist. So we're just gonna chill. Hassan is considering multi-streaming. Oh no, poor Hassan. He has to flee. He has to flee this platform because they're being too litigious. Are they being too mean to him? Yeah, let's see here. All right. I'm using my little wireless microphone here. So again, if it's why does it feel like my voice is about to go out and I just started streaming? What the hell? We'll just keep going. Whatever. We can review the Ezra Klein versus Sam Cedar as a way to chill. I would love that, actually. Is that in the Discord? I don't have like this is like the first time in a while that I don't have any anecdotes or anything to bring up. You DM'd it to me? Okay.
Hey, folks. Hey, folks. Do you drink wine? I do. For a long time, I had absolutely no idea what to do when I went into a wine store. Then my sister worked for a vineyard in Italy for years ago. And then I knew about what to do about one wine. But this is 2025. And no, you no longer have to worry about what you're going to do when you go into a wine store or that your sister may or may not work in the wine business. Naked Wines is a service that directly connects you to the world's finest independent winemakers.
Am I sitting through
so you can get award-winning wine delivered directly?
Okay. I didn't know that the majority report. I was sitting here so fucking confused for a second. I had no idea what was going on. I didn't know it was an ad read. I thought that it was just like they started the like this is the debate and it was just like the live stream of it and they just opened up in the like mid conversation. That's what I thought just happened. I was very confused.
To your door.
Oh, but really quick. So I'm using the wireless mic just because look at this. I've decided that I don't give a fuck about stream anymore. Okay? We're going to still put out content. We're still going to stream, but I don't give a fuck. I'm just gonna like do things that I want to fucking do. All right? Because it's not making me happy. So with this, I can just like, I can stream, I can watch some shit from back here, right? I can turn off the fucking camera. Guess what? I'm over here doing laundry. Camera's off. You would never know because the microphone is right up against my fucking throat anyways. I think this is going to be great. And then also I can just like kick back. I don't have to, like if I'm playing a game, I can just kick back like this and I can just fucking, oh, hell yeah, let's fucking go. Oh, man. I am so looking forward to this wireless life. Anyways, skip 20 minutes, Sam monologues in the beginning. Gotcha. Oh, wait, also, I have a question. I've never seen anything like this before in my entire life. Okay? Nary once have I ever seen something like this before in my entire life. This game, for some reason, will not play audio through my headphones. It audio. You don't hear anything, right? But if I hold it up to my computer speakers, these are all 100% of the audio. Like, the headphone thing just makes it sound shittier. That's all it does. Test audio setup just tells you which thing sounds like what. These are just like, this is insane, right? Have you ever seen a game that does this? I'm talking specifically to you, Internet Gas, because you are the only person here. Answer me. Wrong again. Fuck you. Like, I don't even know if I want to play the game. What game is it? It's Splinter Cell Conviction. Or no. Conviction I have to return because I guess it doesn't run on modern computers. This is Splinter Cell Blacklist. And it for no reason only plays through my computer speakers. And I don't get why. So we might be doing some minor, what do you call it? Troubleshooting real quick.
If you use our code majority, so at any time, head to Naked Wines. The majority. Today, Trump in the Middle East pushing an enlarged Abraham Accord.
1 second.
Meanwhile, taking a little more grief for that, what turns out to be not totally free $400 million jet. Trump reportedly.
Bro, can't you switch to headphones from your speaker settings? Yeah, but watch this shit. Here, we'll put that there. So, I've got the volume mixer here, right? Headphones. It's not even an option. But if I switch the high quality audio device, where is it? Speakers. It shows it right here. For some reason, it's the only thing on the computer that's playing only through the speakers. There is no other option to make it not be here. I've never seen anything like it.
Reversed on China tariffs because it was going to crush his own voters. Meanwhile, RFK Jr., fresh out of swimming in feces, testifies in Congress to defend his Health and Human Services cuts. Republicans out in the open about Medicaid cuts for wealthy tax cuts. And in that same bill, the House Republicans sneak Trump's ability to unilaterally revoke tax-exempt status from NGOs. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, instead of fixing the problems at Newark, changed his wife's flight to avoid flying in and out of that airport. Wisconsin judge indicted by the DOJ for supposedly obstructing.
Okay, we get it.
Survive, essentially, this food.
What I want to do is, dude, RFK swimming in nasty water was when he brought his grandkids too. Dude, I fucking know. I don't get what the, like, when, like the the warning that they gave, it wasn't like, some like woke thing or anything. It was, hey, the Washington, D.C. pipe system sucks. It's old and it leaks. And when it rains, it leaks into this stream specifically. So it's really full of bacteria. So please don't swim there. And RFK is like, well, I don't believe in germ theory. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, you gotta believe something, right? You gotta believe something. That was beyond parody. Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, by the way, I'm for the foreseeable future, I'm just gonna stream while high. I'm not doing this shit sober. Why does your mic sound like shit now? Well, that's what I was asking at the beginning. Does the mic sound like shit? Here, wait 1 second. You gotta believe something. Oh my god, it does. Like the warning that they gave, it wasn't like, some like woke thing or anything. It was, hey, well, I'm using a lav mic. Maybe if I move it away from directly touching my throat. Maybe that'll help it significantly. All right. How's that? Is that better or is that better or that is better? Is that better or that is better? Is that before it goes on forever? Okay.
Food, water, energy embargo, medicine embargo that Israel has levied against it for over 2 months. Its intention to occupy and continue to bomb Palestinians in Gaza. We'll see if that, if Donald Trump's profit incentive in any way sort of butts up against that agenda and where it takes us. We shall see. Meanwhile, papers all over the place here. Winding its way through the Republican caucus in the House is the One Big Beautiful Bill. Just a reminder, it is a reconciliation bill. There was a resolution that was passed a couple of months ago now that basically did the broad outlines of what the bill was going to be. The key for the Republicans is if they're going to do it through reconciliation, which is the only way they can, they must make it budget neutral. So the tax cuts they want to extend for Donald Trump, they're going to attempt in the Senate to pretend that the baseline is not when what the revenue would be when the current legislation expires at the end of this year. They're going to pretend that it's not expiring, and that is the new baseline. So they have more room to perform more tax cuts. In the meantime, either way, they know they're going to have to cut the budget to make room for those tax cuts. And in that budget resolution at the beginning of the year, they basically tasked the Energy and Commerce. Do I think the big, beautiful bill is going to skate through the Senate? No. I don't know. I don't know why they think that it's going to. It feels like the people in the Senate want to cut the deficit down significantly, and the people in the House want to just like bludgeon it through. I don't think it's going to go through. I don't think that they're capable of governing. As a party, I don't think that they're capable of governing. They've added way too much into it. He's trying to get his entire policy, his entire agenda through in
one bill, because if they try and get it like anything else through, they're just not going to be able to. Yeah, Elon, I was going to watch a video on that later, but just like, Jesus Christ, dude. How do you get to this point? It's pretty insane how much is already guaranteed to be added to the debt before this as well. Yeah, and you know what sucks is, what sucks is there are a whole bunch of positions that traditionally I wouldn't want to take up. I don't want to argue. I don't want to be a deficit hawk. But the entire reason we didn't need to be deficit hawks is because, you know, when you invest, you hope to get a return on that investment, right? So like a company, if they like take out a loan, right? They're probably going to take out a loan so that they can open up a new facility, or they can get a new machine that helps them produce more, right? And they're thinking, well, if I take out this loan to buy this machine, that machine will allow me to produce so much more product that I will be able to make so much money off of that. It's out the debt. I'm going to make more money from this machine than I borrowed from the bank, so I'll be able to pay that back. That's the same way that our government works, right? We borrow money from ourselves usually, right? And we just as long as we're getting a return on that investment and we are paying that that down, right? And it's not overtaking out. And I don't know like what the Goldilocks zone is, but you know, as long as our interest payments aren't taking up the overwhelming majority of our spending, we're probably fine. But now we're at a point where those interest, we're not making enough back from the investments. We're just shitting money away because we're not investing in America. It's just so stupid, and it's so gay, and it's ridiculous that now we have to have this argument. It's like extremists, or like these people who don't care about actual governance. They identify a problem that they really don't like, and then they get into power, and then they make that problem real. And now we actually have to deal with that problem. That wasn't a problem before, but now you've made an actual problem, right? Like Trump right now with the debt ceiling and all of the debt stuff. Now we have to start thinking about the debt. The lefties, like you guys have gone like so far with the Hamas stuff. It's just like so crazy, and it's so ridiculous, and nobody can be normal. I don't know.
Committee with finding 800.
Can we invest in America by giving the top earners another tax break? The investment should trickle down. You know what? We're giving them the tax break. We did that 4 years ago under Trump, you know, and our deficit exploded. I think if we give them another tax break on top of that one and make them permanent, I think this time it'll finally work.
$100 billion of cuts.
Tessie.
And their biggest pool of money is Medicaid. So we already know that what's winding through in this bill are going to be massive cuts to Medicaid, significant cuts to SNAP, what we used to call food stamps. Particularly, it's going to put huge burdens on people who are over the age of 54, between 54 and 64, to get food stamps. Also, in the event of a financial crisis, some type of stress in the economy, states will not have the ability to easily provide food assistance to their citizens who may need it in a sort of like quasi-emergency situation. Today in the Energy and Commerce, I should say yesterday, sorry, the Debt Collective protested the Energy and Commerce reconciliation markup when they basically are going through their portion of what ultimately will be part of this big reconciliation bill.
Won't this shit hit red states the hardest? I mean, yeah, I think so. I think so. I mean, we can check that. I don't know 100%. Let's see. Which states have the most people on Medicaid? Oh, California, then New York, then Texas. Is it just like the most? Because that's like in order the most wealthy states. Oh God, I wonder if there's some correlation there. Mm. So California first, New York second, Texas third, Florida fourth. It's that's so weird. It is almost kind of one to one with um like that state's GDP. That's really weird. I wonder why that is. Like these are like the list. I mean, I feel like Oregon and Washington should probably be up there, but hold on, I'm going to. Here, one second. Let's see if we can follow Internet Guess's instructions here and see if that works. Could be population driven. Um, yeah, it could be population driven, but it's just like it took me a second to realize. Stop. Skip. I don't care. Pause. Let's turn all of that down. Oh my God, that's still so loud. Here, try this. Now we can do this. Okay. Okay, we're gonna skip to the Ezra Klein stuff now that we have this fixed, I guess. I can't believe it just decided to work, but I can't believe it actually did. It just said, oh, I guess we'll decide to work now. Okay. All right.
Ezra, it's a pleasure to welcome I back, I guess. I mean, maybe it was years and
Been a
years
minute.
ago.
Been a minute.
Ezra Klein, New York Times columnist, host of the podcast, The Ezra Klein Show, also co-author of the new book, Abundance. Ezra, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so we should say just a little bit of backstory. You guys had reached out to us. Our efficiency is a quotient not particularly high, and so you were on the Iglesias's show, I guess the Slow Boring podcast, and mentioned that we hadn't responded. So we wanted to have you on to talk about the book. We had Paul Glastis on from Washington Monthly, your old haunt.
Oh, where I interned. Love Paul.
With a critique that was, I think, like middling critique. Some of the proposals that were brought up in the book.
So essentially, the got it. The Ezra Klein guy has been going around trying to make the case for neoliberalism, but making the case for neoliberalism through like a progressive point of view, but also kind of dropping the stupid parts of progressivism. And it's like an economic message, and I think it's a good one. I'm going to start reading that book as soon as I'm done reading the Federalist Papers. It's like stupid watch. So my understanding is he's going on to talk to Sam Cedar, who is super progressive about housing and how to build more housing. And I've heard one clip of this that was posted to Twitter, and it was very funny. His is more liberalism that isn't Reaganomics. Yeah, it's like a progressive version of neoliberalism. I like it.
But let's just start with you outlining, like, what thematically, what is the book about?
The book is about a very simple question, which is, what do we need more of and how do we get it? And then the parts of the book that I think have aroused more controversy, critique, energy, conversation, is that much of the book is exploring the question of why in the places Democrats govern, or in the times when Democrats govern, are liberals, are Democrats, are in some cases people on the left, unable to produce more of the things we need. Why is there so little housing in California and New York? Sam, where are you? Just so I have you
in New York.
You're in New York. So why in places like New York and California and Illinois, where you have a lot of Democratic control, have they become very unaffordable? Why is it very hard to cite enough clean energy, even though that's become a major project for the Democratic Party? Why is so much that we do so goddamn slow? Medicare released its Medicare cards a year after it was passed into law. Getting prescription drug prices negotiated on 10 drugs took 3 years and will only go into effect this year, just in time for Donald Trump to take advantage of it and brag that it was him who did it. So this question of the sclerosis of liberal government, how do we actually make it deliver the things it is promising to deliver, is the core inquiry of the book.
And the culprits run across, I guess, like four sort of main silos, as far as I can tell. Like we have the regulation and bureaucratic red tape, and this is a problem both in terms of like building infrastructure and to some extent within the context of housing. There are that housing is also addressed by like local, I guess, incumbent groups that have power there. The infrastructure, again, some of that bureaucratic process is a function, and we'll get into this, is a function of environmental regulations that end up getting abused in some fashion. And then in the context of like of science and innovation, it is a sort of a risk-averse funding. But let me, before we go into some of the specifics, from your perspective, because I've been reading a lot of the, there's a lot of reviews of the book out there. It's also
have you read the book?
I have. Well, I've listened to the book. Let's put it that way.
That's as good.
And to me, I like your read better than Derek's. Okay, but I've listened to both.
They're exactly as good. All right, if you that just gives you a sense of at what level we're talking.
That's a different critique. But yes, I have read the book, and I've also read there's a tremendous amount of reviews about the book.
What is your critique of the book? I want to answer your critique of the book.
Well, I will get to that. Okay. I will get to that. But from your perspective, is this a policy or a political book?
Oh, I don't think you can separate those two.
Okay,
I mean,
so
you know my career. I'm a policy
Yes.
reporter from way back, but I think something that has always been central to the way I understand that is policy, politics, and process. And I think this is very much a book about process and proceduralism are all intertwined. The idea that you can peel them apart, that you could say, oh, this bucket is policy, this bucket is politics, is not at all how I look at that question.
Yeah, and I guess we'll start with the policy side first. But broadly, my critique is there seems to be an absence of, well, I think the culprits that you have chosen in some instances are correct, but broadly speaking, there's an absence of analysis of power dynamics. I think that and the interplay of money and politics, or I should say power in our society.
Why do Americans view apartments and renting negatively? People look at you if you're poor if you're in an apartment. I remember when I was like kindergarten age, we lived in apartments because my mom was finishing getting her degree. And so my dad had to live in one town because he was the pastor of one town. And then we had to commute to this other town for my mom to go to school. And it was like in a little apartment. And it was, apartments just had such a negative connotation to them. And I feel like I've heard that my entire life. Like, you want to get out of the apartments and you want to get into a house. You want to have a yard. Everybody has always wanted a yard. But like, I don't understand it because personally, I kind of like, we were living in a condo before and now we're living in apartments. And, I kind of like it better than living in a house, Pretty weird. You guys associate it through a class lens culturally in Europe. It's pretty normal. Yeah, I couldn't speak exactly why. I think because the American dream is that white picket fence in a big yard. I mean, that's part of it. Yeah, I think it's about like ownership, It doesn't do shit for you. Like, unless you're going to use your yard on a regular basis, right? Like, if you're the kind of person that has cookouts, that's one thing. I can't stop fucking with this stupid fucking watch. There we go. All right, let's keep going.
I think is problematic. I mean, I think that look, there have been questions about specific policies and assumptions. I've read critiques about your assessment of why China is able to do certain things and whatnot. But and I also think the power questions really filter through a lot of what you perceive to be problematic. And then I think broadly, I think it's also difficult to understand how this is going to function as a political question. But we will get to all of that.
Second. We'll do the second in a minute.
But let's do the policy.
Let me talk about power. Let me talk about power. I have been interested to see this critique develop. And I just had Zephyr teach out on my show. There's an episode with her and Shoykat Chakrabarti called Abundance in the Left that I think people would be interested to hear sort of do the power debate at some length. I think this has been very revealing to me about what my friends on the left, and I think of myself usually as on the left, though, a liberal, not a leftist, I guess, mean when they say power. I think this is a book entirely about power. But it is a book that treats power highly situationally. So there is a structure of power that arranges itself around, say, a housing development in San Francisco. That is a different structure of power than arranges itself around the question of can you build interstate transmission lines, which is a different structure of power than arranges itself around the question of can you site rural broadband and build that in the way that you want to, which is a different structure of power than you see in a bunch of the other cases in the book. And one thing we are attempting to do over and over and over again is get extremely granular about what is happening. So one thing that bothers me about the power analysis that I hear on the left, let's take housing, because I always think it's very important to ground things in like a specific case. Texas builds more housing than California. It builds more housing than New York. When people move to Austin and Houston and Dallas, they build homes. When people move to San Jose and
Old
San
ass
Francisco
game.
and Los Angeles, they don't. Is your view, do you find it a credible view to say that the issue is Texas has solved the corporate power problem, but California is permeable to corporate power and dominated by oligarchy in a way that Texas, or for that matter, Florida, is not?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily, I think it's not necessarily corporate power. I think what we're talking about is money. I think we're just talking about money.
So
And
Texas has
in
solved the money in politics problem, but California
Well,
has not.
Well, I can tell you that, like, if you want to compare, let's say, San Francisco to Houston, right, you just have a lot more space in Houston. You have a lot more money in San Francisco. And so the power that rests with the money is more concentrated, literally, right? And has the ability in those instances
What the
to stop
fuck is
this
this guy
housing project or
saying?
that housing project. Like, look at Austin, for instance. You bring up Austin. That house.
One second, I gotta let me hear him say
Is
this
your
again.
view, do you find it a credible view to say that the issue is Texas has solved the corporate power problem, but California is permeable to corporate power and dominated by oligarchy
This
in a
is the
way
clip
that
I saw.
Texas,
They cut him off
or
like
for that matter, Florida is not?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily, I think it's not necessarily corporate power. I think what we're talking about is money. I think we're just talking about money.
So
And
Texas has
in
solved the money in politics problem, but California
Well,
has not.
Well, I can tell you that, like, if you want to compare, let's say, San Francisco to Houston, right, you just have a lot more space in Houston. You have a lot more money in San Francisco. And
I'm sorry. Load. Thank you. Are we saying that that there's nowhere, anywhere around here? Well, this is a preserve right here. We're saying that there's no housing developments that can happen anywhere over here, anywhere over here, anywhere over here. There's no new, like, or more dense housing that can be built over here. There's just like literally nowhere in the entire Bay Area to build houses. It's all built up. Because Houston has a problem. Houston has a problem in that. Here, let's scroll. Go to Houston. Houston has problems, okay? Don't fucking get me wrong. But none of, like, I've never been to San Francisco, so I might be wrong. So someone tell me if I'm wrong here. But like, even inside of like the central areas of Houston right here, there's an unbelievable amount of housing that can be built. And this is like the most developed areas of Houston. Like, it is an and people are still going out to here to build houses 30 miles away. People are still building houses in the very middle of Houston. I'm pretty sure that motherfucking San Francisco has room for more. I'm pretty sure they do. I just think that that's possible. California is desert, brother. There's plenty of land. It's just filled with small, cheap houses. What are you talking about? It's filled with small, cheap houses. In California, all of the houses are expensive. I just don't even know what the fuck this guy's talking about. Gentrification hit hard? I've heard.
Austin and Houston and US power.
Necessarily. Well, I can tell you that, like, if you want to compare, let's say San Francisco.
Here, really quick, because I have the wireless microphone now, I'm just gonna go and grab myself a bag of chips because I fucking can. I can just like keep streaming. Also, that was my reaction to Sam. That you, oh, sorry.
To Houston, right? You just have a lot more space in Houston. You have a lot more money in San Francisco. And so the power that rests with the money is more concentrated, literally, right? And has the ability in those instances to stop this housing project or that housing project. Like, look at Austin, for instance. You bring up Austin. In the course of Austin, and this was, I read this in the review, because obviously I'm not studying Austin or San Francisco for that matter. But Joe Wiesenthal wrote, that his observation about Austin was that it was cheap, and then it got very expensive. Then there was, and it was a function of costs went up, rents went up. It became expensive there.
Rents have gone down in Austin because they built so much.
They built so much.
I really want to hold on what you said the first time.
But
San Francisco has concentrated money in a way that
there was no change.
The costs were low, and then they went up, and then they went down again. I know this because I know people who live in Austin. I have a little brother that lives in Austin. It really is weird that the red states can just like build shit, and Democrats and progressives, we find a way to excuse our inability to get anything done.
Change in the building codes, for instance. Like the argument that
the building code responded in Austin. So you can just go look. I don't know if you guys are able to pull up data on the show and show it, but just go pull it up if we can. You can search Fred housing starts in Austin and San Francisco. You could just do this in general. You can look at this analysis across blue and red cities.
But
what the difference? Hold, let me just. I want to go through this example, but we can go through a bunch of them. Houston doesn't have a zoning code. That's why it's easier.
We kind of do, but it's like a super roundabout way to do a zoning code, so it kind of doesn't.
To build there. I mean, I was talking to a developer there, and he said, look, the thing everybody knows about Houston, if you're a developer, is it's a bad place to be a homeowner. It's a good place to be a developer. And this is what I mean when I say the whole book, in a way, is about power. That in these procedural questions, in this question of how do you get housing approved, what we have created in many blue cities is a lot of veto points.
I'm a building things is bad because developers are evil and can't make profits Democrat. I don't know about, I've never heard, well, that might be an issue. I don't know about that issue. I've never heard that issue. I think it's just the idealism of owning a house, so who gets rich off of the apartment rent money. Written controls are ass. Yes, 100%.
And that veto point can be used by corporate power. It can be used by moneyed interests. It can be used by local homeowners who are not power in the way we would normally think of them, but sure as hell are power when you're thinking about whether or not to build housing. It can be used by all sorts of players. And so I think that one of the places where I quite diverge from some of my other friends on this is that I think when you create this level of proceduralism, this level of veto points, they get captured by interests over time. And that is a place where power can pool. Now, I think the place where I probably part, just to finish the thought, I think the place where I probably part is that I think that the left is often very attentive to power when it is coming from certain recognized villains, and much less attentive to power when it is coming from people who might in other contexts look like allies or just be local homeowners. But that can also be real power wielded in a problematic way.
Well, but you listed off three.
This is basically the rhetoric people on the left use to oppose housing construction. Usually it's DSA types rather than actual Democrats. Oh, they say that they can't make profits? Oh, wait. Sorry. I thought, are you saying building things is bad because developers are evil and shouldn't make profits, because that I definitely understand. Those people are so weird. I don't understand. Everybody wants housing to get cheaper, but they're not willing to build more. It's just, yeah. And unfortunately, I used to be one of those people, but then I grew the fuck up. You know, you learn a little bit more, and then you realize, oh, if I actually want to help people, we have to do the exact opposite of what I thought was right.
The entities that have power, corporate power.
What's this?
Hey, unless this is a nude lovin', get the hell off my property.
You can't own property, man.
I can, but that's because I'm not a penniless hippie.
I fucking love Futurama so fucking much.
Moneyed interests and homeowners. And I would suggest to you that in all three of those that you just listed, that money is ultimately the controlling factor. So for instance, I can tell you, like, I don't know San Francisco, I don't know Austin, I know Worcester, Mass. And I can tell you that during urban renewal, we had, there was an entire neighborhood that was completely, I don't know if you've ever been to Worcester, had gone through 290. There was an entire neighborhood called Laurel Clayton, I think it was, that ended up dumping people into a housing project, Plumley Village. And it was all run by the Worcester Redevelopment Authority. It was completely streamlined. None of the other, what we would call today groups. There was no equity involved in this, or equitable justice or anything like this. And the neighborhood was completely destroyed because the input only essentially came from this big insurance company and the Worcester Redevelopment Authority, which was essentially owned by the same type of people. And I only know about this because a buddy of mine was homeless in high school because of how much destruction generationally it had created as a result of that. And so when you list off those three elements of power, in my mind, those are all moneyed interests. Those local homeowners, I'm sure there are stories of low-income people who own homes in an area that hasn't been redeveloped, is able to stop building. But I would imagine those are very far and few between.
Then I think we should be in agreement, right? If this is the case you're making, then I think we should be in agreement, because there's no doubt that
I'm saying it's moneyed interest.
It's sometimes money interest for sure.
They
right?
just think money is
let me finish the
evil.
thought,
Okay.
and then you can give me your rebuttal.
He just thinks money is evil. People standing up to building new shit, even that's moneyed interests too. Well, actually, no. I want to go back. I want to hear that example again. I'm sorry. We're gonna have to go back. And I apologize. I'm high so that we can be chill and we can play video games and shit. True, King Trump for life. We should make shanty towns.
In this, or equitable justice or anything like this. And the neighborhood was completely destroyed because the input only essentially came from this big insurance company and the Worcester Redevelopment Authority, which was essentially owned by the same type of people. And I only know about this because a buddy of mine was homeless in high school because of how much destruction generationally it had created as a result of that. And so when you list off those three elements of power, in my mind, those are all moneyed interests. Those local homeowners, I'm sure there are stories.
Still moving, Sam. I'm seeing a lot of militia down there. Might get left.
We'll keep it quiet as long as we can. Moving to the side entrance.
I can't believe what the fuck. There is no reason. Jesus Christ. I can't believe that shit. 1 second. I'm not that fucking stupid. Okay, 1 second. Well, I guess we're not playing Splinter Cell.
Of low income people who own homes in an area that hasn't been redeveloped stops, is able to stop building. But I would imagine those are very far. If
Listen, Testy, it's been a bad couple of days, dude. I'm just rolling with it now.
Then I think we should be in agreement, right? If this is the case you're making, then I think we should be in agreement, because there's no doubt that
I'm saying it's moneyed interest.
It's sometimes money interest for sure, right?
Well, what is it the other times?
Let me finish the thought,
Okay.
and then you can give me your rebuttal. When you create these highly legalistic systems, the people with the money to hire lawyers and law.
There actually is some evidence that NIMBYism and citizen voice obstructionism increases with resident income, but that's just affluent homeowners doing what they do, not big moneyed interest. Yeah, exactly. That's like the thing and a lot of these people are Democrats, That's the crazy thing, is that these people are Democrats and they're obstructing, usually apartment buildings or large condo buildings from being built, because it will reduce the value of their homes. But then they want to sit there and cry about the Democrats not making housing more affordable. Pick a lane. There is way to kind of fix 90% of a homeless problem, but no one is willing to do it. Building 50-story apartment building in the middle of nowhere and lease it to them for free, and if you're mentally ill, the court should force medical care. What you're talking about there, you realize that that's literally just an asylum, right? You can make an argument for an asylum. I think that we should bring asylums back, but that's what you're talking about. It's a big building where people live. Yeah, okay. I thought that you didn't realize that you had recreated the asylum system. Yeah, you can just say that listen, King Trump for life. We're big liberals here, okay? And I will ban you if you start disagreeing with me on anything, all right? Because I just don't have it in me to deal with it anymore. But you're not going to get banned for agreeing with me on the asylum thing, okay? Some motherfuckers need to be put into asylums. I'm down for it.
Lobbyists are going to be more capable within them. And so the structure of a society that begins to bury so much in bureaucracy, where you have to know when to show up to the planning meeting and you have to know who the city council members are, like, it begins to structurally favor those who can navigate that society. So
Discover California's best tiny house communities, the ultimate guide to minimalist living. No, that can't be real. Imagine walking up to mountain views or sipping your morning coffee near the beach, all while surrounded by like-minded, eco-conscious individuals. California's tiny house communities provide the ideal setting for embracing simplicity, minimizing environmental impact, and connecting with others on the same journey. The only thing worse, listen, guys, the only thing worse than having to live in a tiny house is being surrounded with a bunch of people that want to live in tiny houses. Holy fucking shit. That's dystopian, and not for the reasons that you think.
So when we talk about things like upzoning, where we want to make it possible to build more houses in an area, like, everybody knows it is almost impossible to upzone a rich area. And that is because they are able to bend this process to their will. Now, you can take a place like California,
all right, well,
right?
let me address that. I mean, I get that point there. And I think that is what worries, I don't know about other people, but that's the type of thing that worries me, because the argument you've just made is almost identical to the one that I would have every week with Tim Carney, who I know, back in the day, which is an idea that the problem with wealthy influence, and if you and I agree, then it is money. The problem with
But
it
we
is
don't agree that it's all money.
okay.
Listen, money is one mechanism of influence.
But I think it is the biggest one. Would you agree with that?
It depends on the issue. So look, there are a bunch of these issues. Where
Okay, well,
money
let me
ends up on
finish. Let
both
me
sides
finish
of the
my
line.
point about Tim Carney. He would say that
why can't we just like stop hating money? Why do we hate the fact that we're fucking awesome? Why do we hate the fact that we have the biggest dicks in the world? Why do we hate this shit, dude? You know what? I have money for the first time in my life. I have a decent job, and I have money for the first time in my life, and I fucking love it. I just can't imagine hating money. It's a nice feeling, right? Yeah. I mean, I feel like on top of all the other fucked up shit going on with me right now, if I was also like completely destitute, poor, or unemployed like I was for the longest time, bro, holy shit, I don't know what I would do. I would probably lose my fucking mind. I would probably actually have a psychotic break. There is some kind of threshold. Oh, wait, hold on. NGO love money. They just don't want to give it to the poor. Okay, well, don't listen. Wait, hold on. I missed your first thing. Most homeless people aren't mentally ill. They're just broke. They can't afford to live there. Well, homelessness can like cause you to like go crazy. And then I think that I feel like I don't know a lot about psychology, okay? But I'm pretty sure that like you can actually just like start becoming more crazy antisocial behavior shit like while you're homeless, and then like once you become more secure and like over time you'll just like become more normal. So like that's one thing to keep in mind, you know? There's some kind of threshold where money corrupts. I'm okay with it. I don't know about. Oh, I guess certain limits on megacorps and even individuals. Like, it would be a really tough sell to me to try and limit the wealth of individuals, or even a corporation necessarily, depending. Right? Obviously, we have antitrust laws and shit like that, but there's I'm reading the Constitution and shit, and the thing that's striking to me is just how reasonable these guys are, like they're like incredibly reasonable dudes. The Second Amendment was actually like a really reasonable thing in the context of with which they wrote it, right? And I just think like people need to become more reasonable. It's like we've lost our ability to, like, this Ezra Klein guy. I just like listening to him talk because he's reasonable. He's not fucking retarded. He's not an ideologue. He's not trying to sell you something that he doesn't believe in, you know? Don't want a 90% wealth tax like Sam. 90% wealth tax. I logged onto Facebook on my phone for the first time in years, months probably. So my uncle posted this thing about Eisenhower having a 90% tax on the rich. It's like, first off, I don't even know if that's true. And number two, like, there's like a million things I would do before taxing the rich 90%. There's just so many more things. Like I got into this argument and it ended up being good at the very end with this leftist. But it's just like I the reason was it is it crazy? Fuck you with your typing and killing my train of thought. I was saying, nope, it's gone. Fuck it. We'll keep listening.
You need to have less government. That way it cannot be
Oh, wait,
as
hold on.
corrupt.
Let's
It is
rewind a
the
little bit.
biggest one. Would you agree with that?
It depends on the issue. So look, there
Well,
are
I'm
a
saying-
bunch of
but I'm saying
there are a
across-
bunch of there are a
across
bunch of
the-
these issues where
Okay, well,
money
let me-
ends
Oh, my Uncle Eisenhower. Yeah, first off, I don't think that that's true. And number two, there's just like a million things. And then there was the leftist I was arguing with. And we were talking about the minimum wage. And why in the fuck do we care about the minimum wage being raised right now? There's a million different things. And then I just like, bro, if you go to google.com, you know, you go to google.com and you type in what percent of workers make minimum wage. What was the first yeah, this was the first link when I googled on my phone, right? Let's see, where was it? This right here. 2.9% of hourly workers ages 16 to 24 earn $7.25 an hour or less. 1.1% of hourly workers aged 25 to 34 earn the minimum wage. Less than 1% of hourly workers older than 35 years old earn the minimum wage. And it's like, this is such an unbelievably small group of people in the economy. Why would we focus all of our effort onto this one hyper specific for these people, you know? It's just a small fucking group of people. Why would we spend so much social and political capital trying to get this through when we could push, you know, could put so much more oomph behind, you know, the source of Ezra Klein's talking about with like building more houses, or like, you know, we could put more oomph behind passing better healthcare stuff and shit like that. And it just doesn't make sense. Three horsemen of populist memes: 90% top marginal rate in the 1950s, 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, and the wage productivity gap. I just think populism is a cancer that just needs to be stamped out and then just ground into the fucking dirt, please. Why don't people want to go into trade school? Because most people just don't. Most people just don't want to have those jobs. And that's fine. There's a corporate tax, not a wealth check. Here's the fact check. I'll deal with that later. The edible is hit, so now we're struggling to think, okay? Much bigger fish to fry. Yeah, and like I think that I think that I might be I'm beaten down, I'm jaded, right? I don't care. I don't care about the minimum wage shit anymore. Okay, I don't care about that shit. I don't care about half of the fucking slogans that we used to argue about, right? It's just like at a certain point, you just like zoom out for a second, like take stock for what's important, you know? Like what is it that you're trying to accomplish, right? Start there. Is what you're doing actually working to accomplish those ends? And I don't think that especially leftists, but a lot of Democrats have this problem. And I mean, a lot of Democrats have this problem where they need to like take a step back and say, like, who are we trying to help here? Are we actually doing that? We can have the DEI shit, you know? Hi, Boy, how you doing? We can have the DEI shit. It's fine if you want to do that. Corporate tax rate range from 30 to 52 according to Tax Foundation's historical data. Populism wouldn't be a thing if most people could buy into the system. What do you mean? Wait, actually, I don't understand what you mean by that. Have you converted to constitutional abundance liberal socialism? I have. I'm actually going to start reading Ezra Klein's book sometime this week once I finish reading the Federalist Papers, because that's the constitutional part. I just finished reading the Constitution annotated. Now I'm reading the fucking Federalist Papers. Bro, I feel so civic minded right now. I'm like fucking concentrating like a motherfucker, you know? All right, let's keep going.
Let me finish my point about Tim Carney. He would say that you need to have less government. That way it cannot be as corrupted or manipulated by moneyed interests. Now, I don't know if you think that money is the problem 51% of the time or 30% of the time.
I don't think categorically.
Why does... What a weird way to think about, like, what percent of the problem is money? Is it a 50% of the problem? Is it 30%? Like, what are you trying to get at there? You obviously think that money is a problem. Sometimes it's a problem in certain contexts. That doesn't mean that you can say it's 50% of the problem. It's just stupid. Money is just a thing. Like air is just a thing that we need to use to breathe so that we survive. We have money that we need to use so that we can exchange it for goods and services. Would you mandate civics federally? I would mandate civics federally, not just for students. I would force every person in the United States to take at least a 30-hour course in civics every 10 years.
Asking that question, but here, let me say where I disagree with Tim Carney, because maybe it'll clarify where maybe you and I don't agree. Tim wants a less capable state. I want a more capable state. Tim wants a state that does fewer things. I want a state capable of doing more things, including the things it has already promised to do. So when I look at California high-speed rail, I work backwards and I say, what the fuck happened if the state of California could not build high-speed rail, which they can do in Japan, they can do in China, they can do in Europe? Tim looks at it and says, they shouldn't be trying to build high-speed rail. And so the disagreement I have with Doge, with a lot of different things, with a lot of my friends on the right, is they want to reduce state capacity. I come at this from as a liberal who wants the state to accomplish very difficult things: decarbonizing the economy, building enough affordable housing, including, by the way, public housing, building mass public infrastructure, things like high-speed rail or the Big Dig or the Second Avenue subway here in New York City. And what I see is a state failing to accomplish its goals. Right. Now, they would say, don't fucking try. I would say, fix the state. And one issue with the state is that it has become so highly regulated, not in terms.
God,
I find that when I use the term deregulation, like people's brains turn off because they think of deregulation as something that the state does for the market. But no player is more highly regulated than the state itself, often by Republicans, often because of power in the way that you would define it. But I think a lot of liberals, a lot of leftists have, one, and this is my critique going backwards, ceased to see this, but two, they don't take state failure seriously. And when something like California high-speed rail happens or rural broadband, they sort of move on instead of saying, why are we not delivering? We are the people who believe in government. People are pissed at government for a reason. How do we make government deliver?
See, and I think
he is so unbelievably fucking giga-based. God fucking damn. I just can't get over it. Whenever he fucking talks about what the role of government is or what the fucking Democrats' problem is, he just hits the nail on the head so fucking hard. It is, god damn. Fuck. If you want to have student debt or could easily buy a house by 30, people would want everything to remain stable and keep their heads down. When people struggle to get a house and cars, they no longer want the system because it's not working for them. But I don't want to get into it right this second. I want to watch the video because we're never going to get through this video. No, I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to get into it. I'm going to have some fucking discipline.
And I think in terms of results, I think you and I are largely aligned. But I think the problem is, and you bring up Doge, and it's ironic that you and Carney will approach it in a very similar way, but anticipate different outcomes. But that being aside, I mean, I think that is where, people get a little bit
But see, I don't think we're approaching it similarly. I think
well,
it's at a level of abstraction, it's similar, and then you go granular, and it's not at all.
But see, this is what we're talking about. See, like, it's their policy and politics are in the same place. So we have a level of abstraction, we have a level of granular, right? And the point is the way that these two commingle, I think becomes.
What the fuck is he talking about?
It's
It's similarly. I think it's at a level of abstraction. It's similar, and then you go granular, and it's not at all.
But see, this is what we're talking about. See, like, it's their policy and politics are in the same place. So we have a level of abstraction, we have a level of granular, right? And the point is the way that these two commingle, I think becomes problematic where these two things meet, because your identification of the primary problem, right? I mean, this is the.
I think Ezra is still rhetorically not sticking the landing here. Better to explain to leftists how Japan's bureaucracy is empowered to make decisions and approve project, with few barriers. What the GOP is trying to do with the administrative state by forcing things to the courts. Maybe I don't know what appeals to leftists or progressives is the thing. Like, I don't know if I understood what you meant, but like I just don't know. Like, I don't even know if they want a seat at the table, because it feels like they know they operate best when they're just critiquing. Like, I'd love for like a smart leftist or a smart like super progressive person who like cared about the issues and was a demon advocate for these groups, that like was able to politically maneuver and shit, was out there. But unfortunately, these people just have no ability to compromise. They're not willing to give up any part of their agenda, or their policy or something, I think we should give more money to the wealthy to make the system work for all. True. They've been having it too good for too long. I've heard that money is the cause of all problems, so give them more money. Give them more troubles.
Point. Like the you don't address moneyed interest per se in the book. The primary problem is, I mean, if you just do a summary of the book, primary problem has to do more with the regulation and the handcuffing the state has done of itself. But the state doesn't do it itself. Like, all of this handcuffing comes from a place, and it's either moneyed interest or it's not. And so I have no doubt that at different times.
This is where I think you've really oversimplified politics. I want to try to find the right example, because I think if we stay high, we just are like yelling about this abstract question of money. But let's talk. We both believe in decarbonization.
I think that's really grounded, though.
Hold on, but let's talk about it from this perspective. We both believe in decarbonization, right? Climate change is a problem.
Yes.
And we sort of see the pathway on that is we have to build a lot of green energy to reorient our economy so you can run a modern economy on a green energy basis. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So to do that, you have to move all this energy production over to renewable sources, and then you have to get the energy from where it currently is, right? A solar farm, a wind farm, a hydroelectric, project, whatever it is, and run it through transmission lines to where we plug shit into the wall and charge it. I have done a lot of coverage of this failure point because we are, to be perfectly clear about this, failing to build enough transmission lines. There is no world in which our decarbonization strategy works if we cannot increase by orders of magnitude how fast we are building transmission lines. There is money trying to build transmission lines. There is money trying to slow down the building of transmission lines. Just walking into this process and saying, where's the money, doesn't get you anywhere. Like, I have talked to the private equity figures trying to get a transmission line built. I have also talked to the green, new dealers trying to get that same transmission line built. And I've also seen the people standing in the way of it who have all their reasonable and good arguments. I don't find when I dig into these things that the way I can just repeatedly sort politics is, well, like, over here there's the money and the money is bad, and over here there is the not money and the not.
Let's just don't seem fun either. I say some crazy stuff because it's funny to see. It's funny to me. I believe LGBT should have rights, straight people. I believe, but I make homophobic jokes because of that. Lets us generally push people like me out. I notice there's a notable lack of a last letter there, King Trump for life. Oh no, there's a notable lack of a final letter there. But I mean, like, here's the thing. I was one of those people too. And it's not that they don't like fun, but it's because and here's where I came from as a leftist. I really don't like it when people are fucking like hateful little shits. And now that I realize that people are like actually hateful, like actually horrible fucking pieces of shit, it's like destroying my psyche. But before I was just like, how can you just like sit there and like meme about being such a horrible person? But I guess that's like just half the Republican Party now. But yeah, I don't like cruel people. I don't like to hang out with cruel people. I don't like to be associated with people who are cruel. And so I understand leftists there. But I also think that people should be able to understand what is a joke and what isn't a joke. Right? I'm an edgy joke liker too. Alrighty? I got in trouble a couple of weeks ago. We had a little party and my girlfriend invited her coworkers, and we're trying to make friends. This guy starts making edgy jokes, right? Edgy anime jokes and shit. And so, and he says retard one time. And so I thought that I got to say retard now. He said retard, now I can say retard. The one time I let the retard word slip in front of the stranger, he's like, oh man, hard R, just out loud. I'm like, Jesus Christ. What do you want from me? Did you not have the R word fast? He said it first. Most people who say those jokes don't actually hate the group though. But King Trump for life, here's the thing. And I'm pretty sure Destiny used to make this argument, but this is just like the real thing. When there are so many people who are like actually hating the groups, it's really difficult to fucking tell what a joke is and what isn't a joke, especially if your name is King Trump for life. You understand? Like, my best friend is trans. The most unbelievably edgy trans jokes I've ever heard in my entire life have come from trans people. But it's like, so like you kind of get when you know people, you kind of get the feeling like, okay, this person doesn't actually hate this person. But if it's you're just saying these things in a fucking Twitch chat, yeah, people are going to ban you or get mad at you and shit. And I think it's entirely reasonable, especially with what's going on right now, right? Like, I'm probably going to be like massively changing everything to do with my channel, possibly, very likely, just because like I don't like to deal with with conservatives anymore. Like it used to be like something where it was just like an exchange of ideas and we're fighting the Nazis, yada yada yada. But like now I feel like holy shit, you guys like I actually feel like you guys like fucking hate people, you know? So it's like I actually don't want to be around those kinds of people. In the same way, like back then it was fun to argue against Nazis, but I wouldn't actually want to be around like actual Nazis. Like now it's like to the point where conservatives are actually being that shitty just openly as jokes to them, but it's like I actually just don't want to hang out. I don't want to hang out with you. I don't want to talk to you. I don't like because I actually think that you're being kind of like a shitty person, you know? Anyways. I got shamed for that shit before. 1 second. I'm not a sociopath, so I was like, okay, to make you comfortable. But then she started lecturing me on why I shouldn't say it. Yeah, that shit's fucking annoying. Let's see, let me catch up with chat. Most edgy jokes imaginable about everything. Samantha. Samantha the banana? Yeah. Fuck, I wonder how she's doing. Found footage of your friend.
I just saw a copy of the school newspaper in which a student used the word retarded to refer to our cafeteria lunch policy. The word retarded does not belong in our school! Who is in charge of the school paper? Because I'm about to break their fucking legs!
He's in charge of the school paper. You gonna break his legs, PC principal?
Maybe I need to give South Park a fucking chance, dude. Holy shit. If you're consistently pushing people away with edgy nonsense, then you might actually be the unfun buzzkill who can't read the room. Yes, true, but like people don't get that. They like, and then you get the you know the comedians who come out with their fucking Netflix like I can't be canceled. Blah. It's like, good for you. I'm not gonna watch it. I used to, you know how I used to love stand-up comedy. I used to love stand-up comedy. I can't watch stand-up comedy anymore. It's fucking dog shit. All of it is dog shit. Because, like, I think the only person that I've liked their stand-up special in the past... Holy fuck. My... over 10 years at the very least has been Shane Gillis. Bill Burr. You know what? I haven't given Bill Burr much of a chance. But that I should give him a chance. Because everything I've ever heard him talk about, every clip of it, or, you know, I fucking love him, but I don't know why I've never given him a chance. You just don't watch enough stand-up? No, because I stopped watching stand-up because like these are the two genres of fucking people that you would get. You either get the I can't be canceled, retards, trans. Like it's either those people or the people that are just like unfunny woke losers who are trying to be unoffensive to anyone or completely unoffensive. Like those are and so I just like stopped watching it. Not even close. Okay, well maybe it's changed. I saw a couple of holy shit, I don't know his name. He's super gay. And he hosts a show and other comedians come and he's super gay. That should be enough. If you watch stand up and you know he's the super gay one. That's the bitch, Tony Hinchcliffe, whatever his fucking name is. Yeah, he's pretty funny. It's a shame he's a Trump dick suck, but Joe Rogan, the super gay one, yeah. No, that's the one with CTE. Okay, I actually, you know what? I've never given Joe Rogan a chance before. Like his like old stand up. Was he ever actually funny? Because like he's one of those like conservatoids that I don't I can't even fucking hate him, dude. He just seems like too much of a dude, bro. He seems like someone who's a nice guy, but he's just like an actual fucking, like, been punched and kicked in the head too many times retard. Like, and I feel bad for him because of that, because he seems like a nice guy, but like, fuck. Maybe he's evil, but I just don't get that from Joe Rogan. Joe's pretty boring. Him defending the Puerto Rico joke on Bill Maher was sad. The joke didn't land. It wasn't the worst thing in the entire world. It was a little racist. It wasn't like horribly offensive to me. I told everyone that it wasn't that big of a deal, but like, just, he didn't handle the blowback from it that well, I don't think. Like, you look like white Jafar if instead of wishing to become a genie, he wished to become mid in every way. Yeah, I'm too high. You know what? The only things that I think that I could respond to you with, I'm not allowed to say on stream. Because I swore to keep them private. But I could end you. I could end you. I could make fun of you. Yeah, that's fair. That's right, motherfucker. I could ruin you. How did I know that was Parallax? He has, it's something about the voicing of the way he types. You can just tell sometimes. All right, let's keep watching Ezra Klein destroy Sam Cedar.
Money is good. Usually there's money on both sides of it. There are sometimes unions on both sides of it. And so the structure of the book, because I hope people come from this and want to read it, the structure of the book is typically working backwards from a problem. We're not building enough housing. If we go granular on that, what can we learn? We're not building enough transmission lines. If we go granular, what can we learn? And I just don't think abstracting out to money tied the state's hands, if money could untie the state's hands on a lot of big building projects, all these fucking developers would do it. But it can't, because the proceduralism takes on a life of its own.
Let's fucking go.
I follow what you're saying.
Again, like, I can't say enough. I am so down for the neoliberalization of the Democratic Party. And that sounds like aren't they already liberals? Of course they're liberals, but they're not neoliberal enough. We need to get demonically pro-economy in this Democratic Party, okay? We need to fucking just start throwing. We need to start making so much money that we're throwing money at our citizens. We're basically there already. We just need to like fix some shit, all right? We need to get rid of retard in chief with all of his stupid tariffs, okay? We need to go in, we need to open up the trade, build the houses, deport the MAGAs.
Saying that in each case there are specifics that are different, and you cannot generalize. It sounds like what you're saying.
You can generalize some, but you have to take seriously the specific issues in each case.
I have no doubt.
Your generality should emerge out of the granularity.
Okay, what are the generalities? Like, this is what I'm asking.
I am saying the default in America has become that building, particularly when the state is involved, has become too slow and expensive. We have created an architecture of policy that makes it too hard for us to achieve our goals in the real world, and for that matter, in social insurance.
The Democrats, the Republicans, everyone.
It depends. You're not going to like that. Look, here's a version of the
well, but I'm trying to address the point because, for instance, so
let me give you a better answer to who's the we.
Well, but why I think this is important though is because this to me is the central question, really, about the book. Because
you can't build infrastructure because a bird lives in a tree. I mean, like,
in his book.
Pause. Okay, here's the thing: King Trump for life. Like, there needs to be. Holy shit. That was scary as fuck. Okay. This is why I hate Republicans. Not because of my chair. Because like you guys say, you can't build infrastructure because a bird lives in a tree. That's why we can't have the normal conversation about deregulating. This is why we can't have those conversations about, zoning laws and shit. Because you guys come in and you're like, let's get rid of let's deregulate, let's get rid of all these regulations. And then you have people who have plumbers who have, the pipes made of, pig's iron 2 inches below the soil. And then the entire house explodes as a result of it. We need to have real conversations, but I don't feel like anybody is real. And that's why I'm really appreciating the Ezra dude coming in and just being very real about everything. And like, listen, they're retarded. You're being retarded too, but I'm closer to you. So let's work together. It's just so good. We've got a long way to go when Harris ran on taxing unrealized capital gains and raising corporate taxes. Yeah, I know. There was anti-growth. I know. But like, here's the thing. Like, the difference between the Democrats and the Republicans is the Democrats, they've been trying to do things through Congress. Like Biden was trying to set that example. Like, we need to do things through Congress. And if Congress wasn't going to approve that, that wasn't going to happen. I don't know how she would be able to do that unilaterally. But like, Trump doesn't care if he's allowed to or not allowed to do things unilaterally. He just fucking does things. And we're all paying the price for it. I believe in a clean environment and good building codes, not dumb stuff like burning a tree. Well, like, if it's a bald eagle and we're trying to protect our fucking national fucking symbol, maybe we should like consider chopping down the tree, right? Sometimes. But I think that we agree. I'm just high and I'm trying to say I believe in protecting the birds sometimes. All right. I know the King Trump guy. Why is King Trump cooking so much? I don't like it. It's scaring me. It might be because I ate the edible. That's why.
In his book, O.J. Simpson says that he would have taken a bullet or stood in front of a train for Nicole. Man, I'm going to tell you, that is some bad luck when the one guy who would have died for you kills you. That's probably...
I thought he was going to say... He said I would stand in front of a bullet or jump in front of a train, but I didn't say anything about a fucking knife, baby. Oh, damn. God, I love Norm Macdonald.
I think, like, I could say there's some things in it I like, there's some things that I don't like, but the general point is, I think, for instance, like, where does the title abundance come from?
From Derek's piece on abundance.
Okay. We have seen an entire movement build up about abundance, correct? I mean, like, there is a lot of money behind this broad notion of abundance. And Derek, I think it was on the Lex Friedman podcast, said something to the effect of, there is a fight within the Democratic Party. I don't think he used the word for the soul of the Democratic Party, but for where we're going as a political, as a political movement. And folks from the Nicholson Center have said, like, we have identified the Democratic Party is the best place to have this abundance agenda. And so as a political matter, they're not talking about, in that instance in the Nicholson, they're not saying, like, in San Francisco, we need to roll back this specific policy. This is attempting to develop a movement.
Well, I want to answer for myself here, not for Niskanen, right? So my first piece that leads
you were on that Lex Friedman podcast. I mean, that's
people should go listen to it. I stand by everything I said on the Lex Friedman podcast. But Derek, I believe I'd have to go back and look at what section you're quoting from. But Derek is responding to a lot of very heated left criticism of the book, which, to be honest, neither of us were expecting. The way I wrote, at least my parts of the book, to me, are extremely compatible with virtually and frankly necessary for all left goals. It's a book about affordable housing, decarbonization, state capacity. And my initial piece that leads to this book is in, I believe, 2021. And it is building off of the fact that the Biden administration is trying to do decarbonization through building a lot. And as I begin to follow that policy project, I begin to realize we're not going to get it done under these laws. So that's, I think, one very important thing. But I want to go back to what you asked a minute ago, which is who's we? In this book, we is Democrats. This book is very focused for a very particular reason that we can talk about, because it's not that the only problems in governance come from the left. They don't. My first book was all about largely about the right and polarization and asymmetric polarization. But I became very interested, having moved back to California in 2018, in why is this state governed by all these Democrats doing so badly? Why is it unaffordable? Why is it building less clean energy than Texas? Why is it not building enough housing? And part of the motivation for doing this book is there are a lot of problems Republicans, I mean, we're living through them right now. There are a lot of problems Republicans impose on the political system. But there's a sort of rigor and confrontation that I think is demanded when you look at the states where the people who, broadly speaking, agree with you are in power, and it's not working the way you want it to. You're not getting the outcomes you want to get. And so one story this book is telling is about a collision of the New Deal left, which is very, very focused on growth and building, and in many ways is very reckless with that, right? You were talking about Worcester, Massachusetts, which sounds to me like it's a story from that era. But we could give, Robert Moses is a classic story of this. We can talk about, we really do despoil like environments and poison streams, and we, run highways through marginalized communities and all the things people know. And in response to that, again, correctly, a new left arises. Ralph Nader, Rachel Carson, the entire environmental movement. And it passes all kinds of bills that are very, very, very effective and consequential in their day to restrain government's ability to act recklessly and to do things without considering and creating space for consideration of their impacts. So you have things like the National Environmental Policy Act and all these, bills and projects of that era. And then in this fucking maddening historical moment we're in, the problem becomes not that we're building too much, but we're building too little. And particularly building too little in the places where that new left was most powerful, California, New York, places like that. And so this is a confrontation with having created a very successful architecture to challenge, restrain, and sue the government that is now being used against liberal or leftist, for that matter, projects. If you would
just joining, but it sounds like this guy is talking about something important. You have to keep your own side in check, especially now that everyone is so polarized and isolated. Yeah, and that's kind of like the point of this, is trying to coalesce around ideas that everyone can get behind, basically. Hopefully.
Would like the government.
I'm also like giga high now, so the edible is fully hit. We are not taking streaming. We're not fucking focusing on this shit. We're just fucking playing video games and hanging out and fucking shitting on people and vibing. Okay.
To do public housing. Say you think I'm a neo shitlib and you just want the government to do the public housing. Great. I would like to see a lot more public housing too. The government cannot currently do public housing under the regulatory structure under which it operates. And yes, some of that is money, but it's also the fact that you can sue to stop all this stuff under the National Environmental Policy Act. It's also the fact that government, what I call everything bagel liberalism, loads huge amounts of standards and projects and goals into everything that public money touches. So in California, it costs about 2.2x per square foot to build housing as it does in Texas. Fine, market rate housing, 2x per square foot. If you are doing affordable housing subsidized by the government, it's more than 4x. So why are we making the government's housing for the poorest people so much harder, slower, and more costly to build? And like, is that in the long run good for our goals? I think it is important to confront why government in the place where people agree with us more than in the places where they don't is not getting the outcomes we both want to see it achieve. That's what the book is about.
And I don't know how much public housing is in Texas, or how much public housing is in Texas, or if we're, but
I would say most right-wing people would agree with clean water, ask them if they want their kids to be able to swim in a lake without getting cancer. Right, but like that's the thing. King Trump for life. And like that's what is so wild from a shitlib standpoint, okay? You want clean water, right? But then there's a million regulations that you guys want to hack off. And when we see what's going on with like Trump right now with the literal, not even, it's not a scalpel approach, you know? They're not using a carving knife. They're not using a chisel. They're using a fucking hand grenade, okay? It's not targeted. And this is the idea of basically the Republican wet dream, you know, is what they're trying to do. Is they're trying to fire as many government employees and get rid of as many regulations, yada, yada, yada. How does that line up with wanting there to be clean water or like trying to eliminate the EPA, right? That's what their goal is. They want to eliminate the EPA. I wish Democrats have a lot of problems. I think that the Democrats, as many problems as they have, there's so many more reasonable positions inside of the party. Like going back as far as I can remember, there has just always been way more ideological differences and people keeping each other in check. There were a lot of liberals, there were a lot of, you know, progressives kind of like weaseled their ways in there, but like by and large, like there's a lot of like different interests and shit. A lot of people keeping each other in check. Meanwhile, like Republicans all want to destroy the Department of Education, want to get rid of the EPA, want to fucking destroy all regulations, want to destroy the, you know, all taxes. And, you know, now that they have all three branches of government, they seem to be trying to do that as hard as possible. Dems are just misguided. Republicans are just authoritarians. Like that's the way it feels. It feels like Republicans have become the caricature that I had of them in my mind when I was in high school. And that's insane. That's just like if they just like feel like a bunch of heartless fucking people. It's because right-wing kind of hate leftists, right-wing politicians know how to pull those dumb strings, like the bird example. I mean, like, yeah, but it's like, you know, Republicans are responsible for their own insanity. Dems need to focus on cleaning up systems when they're in power, so there are less appetite from retards to destroy the systems we have. Yeah, exactly. And that's something that I've thought about. Like everyone, I feel like there's this vibe shift I'm starting to notice where people aren't explicitly like the debaters in the debater space. They're not really defending Trump as much, but they're like defending the idea of what he's doing because at least someone, you know, like we need to like build up trust in the government, and he's like building trust because he's doing what everyone asked him to do. And even if that's wrong, you know, at least he's doing what people asked him to do. And it's like I really wonder why people started like just hating the fucking government. I try to pull on my experiences. I must just be an implacable, just like I can't be bothered because I just never worried about what the fucking government was doing. Like, unless there was like some like pretty egregious stuff, like if there was like police brutality or if there was like some like, you know, fucked up foreign policy thing, obviously, like the Iraq war was bad, obviously, you know, but it's like, I'm not worried about the government in my everyday life. Until recently, until Trump 2 specifically. Trump 1, I wasn't worried about government in my life. Trump 2, I actually am. And that's fucking weird. Just say I want to build a fire pit in my backyard. Why do I need approval? Yeah, HOAs are kind of gay as fuck, aren't they? I don't know if that's is that a government problem? I actually don't know. Actually, I don't know a fucking thing about HOAs. I don't know how they form or what authority, where they get their authority. Because I've never been a homeowner. waste time having to fix instead of doing good things. Well, I mean, like I think that there's like this thing again, like they're talking about they want there to be trust. I don't understand why people don't trust the government, right? Like there should be always, obviously, some level of skepticism for what the government says. That's why we have government watchdogs, right? There's a million groups out there that collect data on the economy, that collect, environmental data, that double check their numbers against what the government puts out, right? The reason why people are very confident in government data is because everybody fact checks them. Everybody double checks them. Because if someone's able to catch the government in a lie, they get to bring that shit to the press and they get to be, Bob Woodward. One second, I'll catch up with chat here. I've only ever heard horror stories about what an HOA is like. Yeah. That's not about other stuff? Well, hold on. Because I'm high, I don't know what you were responding to when you said that. That's what right-wingers attach their emotions to. It's not about other stuff. So what are you saying they attach their emotions to? It's an effort to make people hate the government. It feels like there must have been, and I just like missed out on it, Because all Lord your BS, all we need to seek to improve what we have. Yeah, exactly. But like, and I'm so interested in having those boring real conversations now. I guess I really am old, but I ate a fucking THC edible, and here I am thinking, how fucking cool would it be to have a conversation, a real conversation with someone that really knows what they're talking about fucking, actually streamlining the government in a real way that doesn't fucking involve, the virtue signal. God, I'm an old fucking man. That's so gay. I've been realizing that I'm aging, and a lot of it is just when I say shit like that. Fuck me. I need to go, like, do coke or something. Someone please give me some ketamine right now. You're just not connecting it? Regulation. Okay, got you. You didn't miss it, you're just not connecting. Yeah, I'm high, I'm saying. We want clean energy, but we get angry about the dumb stuff and politicians taking advantage of that and throw everything out. Yeah, and see, like, here's the thing. Like, I want to go back to the day where I have in my mind the idea of, like, the noble... Oh, shit, I was about to say... It's like the noble savage, but for, like, the southern white man. And I have these people in my family, and I love them to death. Okay, so like, bear with me. I don't have a good idea of how to explain this, but just like something that's not really all that concerned with politics. They're gonna go out and vote because they love the government and blah. They're a big patriot. They're a Republican. Blah blah blah. But like, how do you get like, how do you? There is no way. Like, I'm reading the fucking Constitution, I'm reading the Federalist Papers. There is no way to set up a government that where the people in charge have essentially all the checks and balances we've had to keep corrupt people out of office, or like ideologically corrupting people out of office, have been worked around. So there's no fucking way to yeah, I guess retards are just always going to be manipulated by those in power. That fucking sucks. What a realization to have while high. You need some sound paneling for whatever while your computer's against? Well, here's the thing. I'm using a lavalier mic for the first time just because I wanted to. Because I bought it and I felt like using it. So it's probably just because it's... Yeah, if I do it like this, it probably sounds a lot better. I think it's after 2001 and then 2008 people start distrusting the government. I think that was like a major part. I think that something historically, just like an anecdote that I've heard, is that the sent a link for what? Why would you need to send a link? Why would I need a link? But yeah, like I've read an anecdote about I don't remember where, that the first major blow to trust in government was Nixon. So I can buy some? Okay, maybe. But I think that the Iraq War probably broke a lot of people's brains. The Vietnam War probably broke a lot of people's brains. The 80s probably broke a lot of people's brains. um yeah, I don't know. I do wonder, like, I understand the because I have the feeling too, like I don't want the government trampling on my rights, but just like I just don't feel like they are on average, you know? 9/11 made me aware how bad the government is. Well, I was almost 6 years old on 9/11, so. According to Pew Research, public distrust in the US government began a significant decline in the mid-60s after a period of high trust in the late 1950s. This trend continued downward, reaching a low point in the late 70s. Since then, while trust levels have fluctuated, they have never returned to the high level seen before the 1960s.
And that seems to me to be a relevant question. But the notion of the everything bagel liberalism, this is the idea that like we have constraints on federal money that a certain amount of union workers, or there may be a certain amount of equity associated with it. And at one point in
or contracting and procurement or a million other things, right?
And,
you can pick some, but you
certainly,
can't pick
like,
everything.
there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that we could go through these bills and find things that are problematic if they are coming.
I mean, take your rights away so I can protect you. Well, I don't. Can you give me an example of that? Because I don't feel like. I mean, like maybe the Patriot Act. You know, I need to look into the Patriot Act because people talk about that all the time. Yeah, you said the Patriot Act. I don't know about the Patriot Act. Privacy is like a big thing. It's just, fuck, man. Maybe I'm just like beaten down. I just care about other things so much more than the government like spying on me. You know, that's something that we should like. I don't think that we should have that, but like, fuck, there's just like everything. There's so much more pressing issues. Anti-government nonsense definitely predates all that. Social credit movements were like the 1930s. So that I'm really, really interested in American history now because I feel like I've like every narrative about like how like the founding was it's just like super fucking wrong and gay, and like these guys are just like super reasonable fucking dudes. Except, I mean, like the whole dressing up as Indians and like throwing the tea overboard was a little bit of a wacky idea. Okay, there's some criticisms, but like broadly, they're pretty reasonable guys. And I just like, I just feel like I want to know about like the era through slavery. I don't feel like I care that much about Reconstruction. I feel like that's going to be really boring. Once we get to like turn of the 20th century, I'll probably pick it back up. But I feel like I just want to know, like, just like, I don't need to go deep into every subject. But it just like feels, I feel like there's a renaissance in my mind right now of how cool America is, how based we are, and I'm thinking about like the things. Yeah, I'll talk about that later. Anyways, being able to call you a terrorist and lock you up forever without a trial. Well, I don't know about that. The government doesn't need to spy on you. Your phone, computer, and ISP are doing that. True. The government can just purchase that data without restriction. That's true too. That's funny. Okay, we need to get through this shit, dude.
Coming necessarily from, I have two. There's two issues. One is there was one point in the book where you talked about we have a choice whether we're going to put filters into apartments that are built, public housing built near highways, or the people are going to live under the highway. And it seems to me that there's got to be a third choice, as opposed to we're going to poison people slowly or we're going to keep them unhoused.
So I want to say specifically what you're talking about that section. So I'm talking to Jasmine Tong, who's an affordable housing developer, does nonprofit affordable housing. And what she is saying is that compared to market rate housing, when she is building housing for homeless people, she is subject to environmental, green building standards, et cetera, that are so far beyond what market rate housing has to do that it often makes it impossible to finance the thing entirely. And a lot of these projects, as you both know, fall apart. And I am saying there that it makes a lot of sense. You understand how people get into a conversation that we should have better than average air filtration systems in, affordable housing built near a freeway. But in a city where you are not building enough affordable housing at all, because again, you have layered, not just that.
Fuck. Oh, I'm fucked. I wasn't paying attention. Ah, fuck it.
But a million of these onto every individual project. So again, it's costing much more per square foot than market rate housing. At some point, you have
public
to begin to
housing is built near the highway. Why is that?
Say again?
Most public housing, some huge percentage of public housing is built near highways.
We're not even talking. Yes, that's all. I mean, listen, we're in agreement that that's all power. But when we are talking, I am saying that we are not building enough affordable housing.
I know, but I'm
in
saying,
California.
Why are we addressing it that far downstream the issue when we're completely eliding the issue that is upstream from that,
We're
which
not
is
completely eliding the issue. The whole fucking book, man, is about wrecking these zoning codes that allow rich people to keep it out of their areas.
Okay,
but if you can't build it in the first place because you can't make it affordable to build, which the people who build it will tell you, I think that I've actually found the set of arguments I've had in this really productive in a way. I don't disagree with you about power, but every time we talk about it specifically, like, yeah, that's a problem. But no, we actually have to solve the problem. Like if you want to make housing development by right, which I think you should do, so that rich communities can't stop it, and the affordable, like I live on a block with public housing, right?
People who own a house want an undersupply of housing stock, their land value would decrease. Yeah, well, that's the entire point of the guy's book, Democrats, in these Democrat cities, they vote against new housing developments. They vote for stronger and more restrictive housing codes. You can't build more houses if there's more restrictive codes, and that helps these people's home values stay high. So that's why housing prices are going up, because they're not building any more fucking houses. So yeah. Like, that's the entire argument this guy's making. And I think that man, I wish that, and I hope actually, because I'm not really following this guy super closely. I've listened to 3 or 4 of his podcasts, and I'm about to read his book, listen to his book. And I hope that the more reasonable Republicans and independents who are we need, I hope they listen to him, and, there are some Democrats in their area that are abundance Democrats, because fuck, if we have this kind, I just want I just want people who are smarter than me making decisions. You know what? I would trade anything in the entire fucking world for just like smarter people than me to be in government and to be making decisions without stupid fucking restrictions from ideologues. I want a technocracy, a moral technocracy, okay? And then I want to be the retard with no thoughts going on in his head, who turns the screws. That's what I want, because I know everything else is fine, and I don't have to really worry about food because, you know, at least I'll get my step. I'll just be a monkey turning screws. I just want smart people. But unfortunately, we don't have smart people in the world. I'm fantasizing about being a blob because everything is fucked. Jesus Christ. The only reason I have ambition is because the world sucks. No, I'm just kidding. Those Sims would claim they're good people because they think good thoughts. I mean, they're not. It's not that they're bad people. And it's not that they're bad people. They just don't. They're acting in their interests. And I just don't care about their interests. So fuck them. Right? They're not bad people for wanting their houses to retain their value. Right? I wouldn't ever. I don't. I might say that out of frustration, but I don't actually think that. The real shit is, and this might be more cold-hearted, is they're just acting in their interests, and I don't care about their interests. Sorry, Nancy, your house is about to lose 10% of its value, and there's going to be about 400,000 people who living in, 3 square miles of you, and your life is going to be significantly better for it. Sorry. I would rather people just be honest. That's why we can actually do something. Yeah, King Trump, thank you. I don't feel like, except for the other day when Admiral Gibbs came and talked in voice with me, I don't feel like I've had an honest talk with a conservative at least in a year. And then now I call into question a lot of my previous interactions. But this is so, because you disagree with me on stuff, right? You said the LGB thing, no T at the end. We obviously disagree on stuff, but I don't, this is fine. You know what? This stream is giving me hope. For no reason. It's literally just because I'm high. Let me see here. Use a Singapore strategy, hire more civil servants, and pay them so much that the smart people are willing to go into that instead of finance, tech, etc. Reverse Doge. Is that really is that what they really did? Because that's really fucking funny. I would want them to stay. I want you to stay poor or homeless because I want my land value to stay high. I mean, yeah, that's a rational thing. And if you're a homeowner, that's cool. I have stopped caring about homeowners' interests right now. Build more fucking houses. Build more fucking houses. Whatever. Don't care. Please spare me from the pain. What is it? I saw this post. When did she post this? May 10th. I saw this a long time ago, and I was just like, cool. I didn't realize it's had a resurgence because I didn't realize her name was Haley McAnally. Haley McAnally. Jesus Christ. That it just popped back against or across my timeline yesterday for the first time since the first time I saw it, and I was like, why is this still going around? Anyways, Doge wasn't about efficiency. Yeah, it was an ideological purge. Her boyfriend is Dick McNutta. Yeah. I would probably disagree with you on immigration and some culture issues. Well, let's test that out. No, let's not, actually. I don't care about that right now. But like, I've stopped caring so much about the immigration stuff. Like, I just want us to do things in a legal way. I like if we want to deport people, actually at this point I'm fucking fine with it. Just like don't fucking do the whole deport without uh due process, right? Like not a jury trial, just give them time to prove that they're either here legally, that they've been following the process, that they're, yada, 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 that they don't have a criminal record, that they're not part of Tren de Aragua. Give them a chance before you send them into the fucking worst prison in the entire world. It's like a bare minimum fucking, that's like all I could ask for at this point, man. Like, I just care if we do it legally. If you want to do it faster, get something through Congress. Get some Democrats on board. I'm sure you'll be able to.
Right now, I believe there should be public housing mixed in everywhere, but you can't build it if you cannot affordably build it. If you're going to, in Chicago, the mayor of Chicago sent out this tweet and he said, hey, look at all we're doing. We built 10,000 units of affordable housing for $11 billion. People are like, you did fucking what? Like whatever it was, it came to $1.1 million per unit. If we're going to cost one.
That all right, I'm pulling out the calculator because I'm high. Okay, you guys can't make fun of me. It was 11 $11 billion. What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? That's disgusting. That's gross. That is unbelievable. Public housing? Brother. Oh, that's disgusting. I'm actually fucking speechless. I am too high to do this Google search. I will not be able to find the right keywords. Someone please find me the news story that announces these new public housing. I need to see what they look like. 1.1 mil per unit. I'm actually fucking at a loss for words. Someone please help me find that. I need to see. Only Sondsol doesn't get $1 million house. True. The left strategy of blocking luxury apartments in favor of affordable units that actually cost 3 times as much to build in action. I can't fucking believe this shit, dude.
$1.1 million per unit when the government builds housing for poor people. We can't.
Of course, he says it literally like the second after I had paused. Okay.
Like whatever it was, it came to $1.1 million per unit. If we're going to cost $1.1 million per unit when the government builds housing for poor people, we can't build enough of it. It doesn't matter where you're building it.
I mean, I think the you know,
He
even
has
if I
no
stipulate
response.
that it is exclusively zoning requirements or the everything bagel liberalism that is creating the barrier to build, housing. We can look at the CHIPS Act, and that was also something.
Has this dumb motherfucker offered a single example counter to what Ezra is saying? Like a single, has he? I know that there are some parts of this that I'm just like kind of like glazing over but is he given a single fucking example? Ezra's coming out here with specific examples. If you ask a right winger like me, we would just say, you can't afford to live here anymore. Move. I mean, I think the emotional, visceral feeling that I have is like, there should be some ability for people to live in some areas, but like at the end of the day, it's got to be where the market prices it. But what we can do to kind of incentivize the market to lower prices, that's where the conversation is, and it's all about building more. I believe I've been watching my town rip up intersections and add wheelchair accessible concrete corners all over town, where we have no sidewalks and no plans to add sidewalks. I remember seeing in the town that my grandfather still lives in. It's this itty bitty nothing. I say nothing town. That makes it sound. Or I love this little bitty town. Okay. But it just has very low population. I remember seeing relatively recently, even though they have a like declining population, everyone's going to be driving everywhere. They're like installing like brand new sidewalks and then like wheelchair and like walk sign, like, pedestrian signals and shit. It's like really nice newer versions of this. And it's like, it's not that I don't want them to have it, but like, of all the things for the town to put money into, why put a sidewalk that nobody's going to use? People forget that the economy is about organizing life. It's a useful tool. Then they start pretending that the economy is more important than life. Like, yeah, the economy should be suited to human needs. That's the line that I always used to say as a socialist. But I didn't realize at the time that the market is doing that. So how much did they go into for 3 people to use it? I mean, I don't know, but I just noticed that they were like building these things. I just didn't know why. Aren't there wheelchair people there? I mean, I'm sure there are, but like nobody's walking around in this town because you have to drive everywhere. My representatives, MTG conservatives, are just as retarded with government spending that they'll never let them say they were better. Yeah.
Thing that had everything bagel liberalism built into it, which apparently, as far as I can tell, up until, Donald Trump shows up, was quite effective. The timeline of things, definitely, of course.
Hold. They went back and answered one of my critiques on the CHIPS Act. If you go back to that original piece, one of the things I'm saying is that they've loaded a lot into this bill, but taken nothing away. After that piece comes out, President Joe Biden signs a bill from Ted Cruz and Mark Kelly exempting the CHIPS Act from environmental review under the theory, as the administration says, that we cannot allow this to be delayed for years and years under environmental review. You can think that's bad or good, but if you want to say the CHIPS Act is going smoothly and well, it's in part because they took the critique.
Well, I think there are instances, and you talk about I-95, for instance, what Shapiro was able to do.
Pennsylvania.
the idea that, and my argument is, without that equity, you do get people living in apartments that are going to slowly kill them or give them asthma or higher asthma rates. Without that equity, you are going to destroy a neighborhood, and like we saw in Worcester, and like with generational impact. But I also think, as a political matter, it is extremely difficult, unless there is some type of buy-in from everybody, that there are circumstances that qualify as an emergency or an urgency that give you the political ability to do something like this. So, for instance, in the I-95 thing, you cite that as an example of where this type of like power, sort of centralized power to bypass this stuff, is effective, and it was very effective in that moment. But if you contemplate like the constituents and constituencies who would be for it versus against it, within, there may be people who are like, I got a store on Route 1, and if 95, that bridge is down, I'm going to make a lot of money because people are going to drive by. But outside of that, there was an alignment where in the fact that you could essentially bypass these things in a state of an emergency. There was the political will to do that. There was the political will to do that in the context of the CHIPS Act, and to revitalize industrialization. You had buy-in. And on some level, it feels like some of what you're talking about with the jettisoning of the everything bagel liberalism, maybe it's like, it's not what you're talking about. Jettisoning is not the poppy seeds or the garlic or whatever it is on top, but it's like maybe the salt inside, or the dough.
Well, you have to be very connected to what you're.
The dough. Sorry, the way he says the dough.
The dough.
Well, you have to be very connected to what you're trying to achieve.
He's making an argument about. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is he just saying that, like, by making the arguments that he's making, and by getting rid of some of the people, that you're losing your soul because you want there to be more housing for more people? Is that really what this guy is fucking saying? I don't know, man.
Like, I guess I would turn this question on you, because I feel like we want to be, as you were saying earlier, upstream. Do you think we can build enough affordable housing if the units cost $650,000 to $1 million to complete per unit? Just flat. Like, can we pay for that?
I would imagine not, depending on the locality.
So what should we do then? Like, what is your view of what is pushed? It doesn't cost that much to build market rate housing. So what is your view? If when you trigger government money, you often double the per square foot cost in some cases of the housing it builds, or when you trigger government money, they don't get things like high-speed rail done. Like, all I want to do here, man, I'm not here for like a big like left liberal moderate fight. I actually want the government to deliver things I think we both want it to deliver. I don't want it to give people asthma, but I need it to be able to build housing, because homelessness is a fucking problem, and it is the worst problem for the people experiencing it, not for me. So what is your theory of how you get this cost of construction down, the speed up? There's got to be something here.
Well, it's obviously localized, right? I mean, I have a sense of, like, in New York, how it could be cheaper.
Okay, let's do New York.
We do not allow developers to sit on land and wait for the market to catch up to them. We do not allow homes to sit unoccupied without it being a cost on those people. I mean, there is a lot of excess housing and space in the city that is being held in private hands,
okay,
so
great.
that they can maximize their profits.
Let's say we do all that, but we're talking here very specifically the New York.
Is he saying that there's such a problem of unoccupied? How many homes in New York City are how many vacant homes in NYC? Less than 1% of apartments priced below 1,650 being vacant. The rental vacancy was 1.4%. Well, hold on. I don't know if that's like... No. The vacancy rate reaching its lowest level in over 50 years. So that's not what the issue is. Sam doesn't care about solving problems. He isn't a pragmatic person. He is an ideologue. You know, and what's so crazy is when I was a leftist, because I never watched the Majority Report, everybody always said that, you know, Sam, he might be a liberal, but he's, you know, he's pragmatic, right? And he's like a progressive, but he's pragmatic. He'll work with the liberals. But like, I don't think that this guy is pragmatic at all. I don't think that this guy knows what he's talking about, actually. I feel like this guy might be, I think this guy might be a hack. He's saying, I'd rather everyone suffer because your plan only helps 40% of the people. I want a plan that helps 100% of the people. Yes, exactly. Exactly. How does King _ Trump _ 4 _ life understand that better than fucking Sam Cedar? Oh, that's brutal. Oh, that's disgusting, actually. He isn't dumb, but he is a hack. Yeah, I know about Sam Cedar, but I don't have I haven't watched enough Sam Cedar to have a real opinion of him. Because I used to have a positive opinion about him. I just thought that he was like a little cucked to lefties, but maybe he's a retard. Yeah, rent control is always like, I think the first time I ever had an argument or a debate where I had time to prepare, where the topic was housing, one of the first things I learned was rent control is a really stupid fucking policy, and you should never, ever, ever advocate for it ever.
New York City is going to have to build housing that is affordable. We know, like, there are studies on this. You can read them. You can go talk to developers. Like, the reporting on this is like very straightforward. We know that when you trigger the public rules, it ends up being extremely, extremely expensive. We know that, like in San Francisco, where they would try to build a public toilet for almost $2 million, they do that here too. Why does it cost so much, and why does it so often fail when government tries to achieve the things we both want it to do?
I think property has been so commodified that there is such a profit incentive, such a money incentive to slow that roll, that it creates a whole litany. There's
I actually just, oh God, it was so stupid. I actually couldn't breathe. What the fuck?
To achieve.
God, is this what I used to sound like? God, my third eye is opening, dude. What the fuck is going on with these people? What the fuck is he saying?
The things we both wanted to do.
I think property has been so commodified that.
As opposed to what? It's a commodity? And he wants it to be what? The greatest has left. Yeah, I know. Dude, it's... No, Mickey came out with Majority Report so that she come after her to do her greedy developer spiel. Oh, I don't know who No Mickey is. He wants it to be a human right. But I just don't. If I like, let's say, let's make it a human right. Like, if I want to move back to Houston from DC, now what do I do? Like, does someone have to like swap houses with me because we have a right to a house? Like, you can't sell it? Is it not supposed to be a commodity? Like, what do they want? I'm a fantastic troll. He wants to suck the air out of the room and make you give up. King Trump for life. I beg you. All right. For my sanity. All right. Because I've been having a psychological break from reality. All right. Because of all this. If you come into my chat and you're a conservative, you can be like this. It will unironically, it'll keep me from fucking ending it all. I just need to know that there are human beings out there.
There is such a profit incentive, such a money incentive.
They are
to
adult
slow
children.
that roll, that it creates a whole litany. There's an everything.
We're talking about
there's an
projects
everything
that are
bagel.
we're talking about projects
of,
that are past that point. Like I think that, let me be really meta clear here on what I'm trying to do with you, because I think you keep wanting to pull it back to where we can let's totally premise corporations are terrible, they are bad, they're like they are your enemy. Hold on.
They have
there are
their
cases,
agenda,
sure,
and we have ours.
Yes, there are cases where the government is building affordable housing on land that they own or they have already bought, or they are funding somebody else to build it, that is already nonprofit housing. This is just like, it's not being done for profit. We are not in a commodified system. We know that housing costs more than the commodified housing costs to build. It is fine to say that it costs more. This is a totally reasonable interpretation. That is because wealthy landowners and wealthy corporations have colluded, maybe with other figures, on rules that have made it cost more. But which of these are you going to pull apart, right? This is the trade-offs that we are trying to force people to confront in abundance. You have to go into this thing and say, this is not working. I need to make it cheaper, faster, more achievable. Like, when you can't make the corporation your villain, what are you doing? Like, how do you approach?
Well, is that a question of making the? Well, first off, I think,
dude, oh my god, he's like so smug about it too. God, I love this guy. Holy fucking shit. Oh, he's so cool. He's just, but I understand what the other side is saying. Well, thank you. His argument has become so commodified. His argument is it's become so commodified that people buy property and just sit on it, which is absurd, obviously. Yeah, because you can Google search, some retard sitting in his house can Google how many vacant homes in New York City and see that it is less than 1% of apartments being priced at $1,650 or below, and it is less than 1.4% in total. So, like, if I'm not smart, okay? I'm really subpar in so many intellectual ways. If I can figure that out, so can Sam. So can any of these people. You have to care.
As a political,
it's not working. I need to make it cheaper, faster, more achievable. Like, when you can't make the corporation your villain, what are you doing? Like, how do you approach?
Well, is that a question of making the? Well, first off, I think as a political matter,
DSA is taken over by the DSA is taken over by Yimbys who are real estate front groups. Yo. That's fucking, you know what? I can't even be mad at it. That's so fucking crazy. It's impressive. That's so fucking crazy. It's impressive. Oh shit. Finally, Tron's here. Hey, Tron, I'm using my wireless microphone. So hopefully I did that because I just felt like testing it out because we're not being serious today. And, so sorry if something good happened today and the audio quality is shit. Housing is expensive due to Fed policy after 2008. Rates below inflation caused investors to flood into tech and real estate. Is there like a book that you've read on that or something? That'd be interesting to, I don't know dick all about housing policy, to be honest. So I know the broad strokes, things that increase or decrease supply. In the past, environmentalists were all about stopping corporations from destroying environments. They were about stopping toxic plants from being built. And now we need to switch to working with corporations to build solar farms, applying it over the environments they once protected. And just find the corporations is pretty good. Yeah, the incentives, I think, have changed a lot.
Making the corporations a villain is going to be
like corporations have an incentive because there's so many people have eyes on them, especially with the internet. Like they want to be seen as nice, happy go lucky people. It gets people to buy their products more, you know. At least that's my understanding.
Far more, you're going to have a far broader support than making, you know, environmental groups or people seeking equity in housing the villain.
That's fine, but
okay. But then I would
through
say
the actual problem here.
Well, and then I would say the problem again is that we
issue?
have so greatly commodified housing. There is such a profit incentive to create these barriers. I know how they exist today. But the idea of unwinding it, you're just like, you know, the whole book is about the idea that what was good intention 25 years ago, 40 years ago, has now brought us this problem. It seems to me that there's an attempt to restart that cycle.
I don't think that you can say, I really want to push you here. I don't think you can say that the reason it costs more money and is so much more difficult and is so much slower to build nonprofit affordable housing than to build market rate housing is because we've over commodified housing. I just don't, or that Texas is better at building housing because they have somehow decommodified housing compared to California.
Well, they have more space. They simply have more
plenty of space. If you go to San Jose, man, there is plenty of space. It's strip malls and single family homes. It is one of the richest tracts of land in the whole country, in the whole world. It could be skyscrapers.
Fuck those rich fucking California coastal elites. You guys get apartment buildings too.
It could be Shenzhen. It is strip malls and single family homes. We have plenty of space in California.
I mean, I can't speak to San Jose.
Like Silicon Valley is what I'm talking about. Like you go ride around where these fucking venture capital firms, man, I promise you, you will not leave that drive saying there is nowhere to build a 6-story apartment building.
And do we have public transport there? Like how are these homeless
we would
people,
if we could build it. That was part of what high-speed rail is supposed to be doing, which is why I'm so rip shit that it didn't happen.
And whose tax base is going to pay for that public transport and those buildings there? I mean, that's
it was our tax base. I was one of the taxpayers.
I mean,
I am saying that I don't think it is plausible to say that the reason you can't build in like San Jose and you can in Texas is that we've decommodified in Texas. We just haven't.
Well, we have plenty of space in the desert too. But the point is how are we going to? I'm talking about the places where you guys specifically make the point that New York City, San Francisco, these places are where people should be living and creating. And from my perspective in New York, having lived here more or less for 30 some odd years, 35 years, this place got a lot more expensive, not because there were constraints on zoning, not because there was equity. There hasn't been this place got more expensive.
I'm not again. I'm pro equity. I believe what I'm doing will create a whole lot more equity because you need to make the affordable housing. But in the book, if you've listened to it, I have a whole section critiquing Michael Bloomberg for this whole concept that New York City should be a luxury good. That this is like a whole section of the book that it is a incredible mistake that a lot of Democrats made along the way to sort of get into this idea that cities are like a penthouse for the upper class.
Yes. And I would suggest, I mean, look, there was this just came out, a report by the Fed, UCLA, that that specifically addressed the question of whether it was housing constraints. California Federal Reserve researchers found that constrained housing supply is relatively unimportant in explaining the differences in rising house prices among U.S. cities.
Have you read the debate on this report?
I haven't.
Let's put
it said
gently
higher
that it's
income growth.
controversial.
Oh no. Oh no, man. Bro, that's so brutal. I haven't seen something like that happen in a debate because nobody cares about studies anymore. But like, dude, back in the day when you remember those, I feel like there was one with Xander Hall and Lauren Southern where they're where he brings up a study and then Lauren Southern says, "Oh yeah, that study because the one where this, and this happened. Oh yeah, I don't take that one that seriously. Oh, you didn't know about any of those confounding factors? It's like, fuck, dude. It's just like the most instant little broing you can do to someone.
Predicts the same growth. Okay, well, it's controversial. I mean, I'm willing to accept that. Like,
Oh, it's controversial. Dumb motherfucker.
differences in rising house prices among U.S. cities.
Have you read the debate on this report?
I haven't.
Let's put it
it said
gently
higher
that it's
income growth
controversial.
predicts the same growth. Okay, well, it's controversial. I mean, I'm willing to accept that. Like I say,
on some basic level,
Oh, it's so funny.
on some basic level,
To
right?
contrast-
If you have enough, things follow supply and demand. If you have enough of something, if you have too much of something, the price of it is going to fall, right? To argue that higher incomes, because, and this again, like I think in a weird way we would agree on this, higher incomes are going to be a causal factor in restrictive zoning and building policies because people get higher incomes, they buy a house, that house becomes a major asset for them. And again, this is all in the book. The way they can protect the value of that asset is by making it impossible for other
100%.
people to live in near them. They are creating
course.
their own scarcity. And so
Yes.
again, when I hear this book is not about power, to me, this book is all about power.
Well, but I still can't get an answer as to what is the primary. If we're talking from a national perspective, right? I mean, across the country, this is going to be a message. You just visited the.
Yeah, Sam already knows. Sam already knows that he lost, doesn't he? See this image? Absolutely disgusting. Let's see. What? What? This image? What's wrong with this image? It's just that it's all single family homes. God, California. I just have no desire to visit California. It does not look like a place I want to go. Like, look how it's so bright. It looks hot. What is the draw? Where is it? There it is.
Senate caucus to talk about this. Derek was talking about there's a fight. It's happening right now. Our book is trying to win.
Wait, hold on. Arguably, investing in public housing could cause inflation in the housing markets if not done carefully. The artificially increased demand for builders and supplies would spike those prices. You know what? I think at this point, I think we just need to get people to start doing stuff. If we need to start pulling back, we'll start pulling back. Someone needs to start breaking ground, motherfucker. This is ridiculous. Doesn't Cali have the highest concentration of hot chicks? I don't know. I'm not sure. Guess it depends on your kind of girl. Some people actually like the heat. Yeah. People, okay?
A certain intra-left coalitional fight about defining the future of liberalism in the
There
Democratic
are the
Party.
nice parts.
I mean, if this fight's going on,
There's just like, listen, I just don't think outside, I think like Texas is probably the furthest west in the continental United States that there's anything that I desire to see. You know, Pacific Northwest, you know, the pictures look cool, but like, do I care to go? Not really. And it's not like it's cool for some people. Some people really like, but there's nothing for me in the Pacific Northwest. There's nothing for me in California. Like I really like New York City, you know? I like New York City because I like the like concrete jungle aspect. Like you're not going to not be on the street, you know, just like everything about New York City. Oh my God. I felt like the one time I got to go to New York City so far, I fell in love with New York City. Fuck, I love that. I love New York City. East Coast, everything over here. I love DC. I love just walking around, you know. I'm probably going to do more IRL streams in DC. We went to Baltimore recently. Baltimore is really fucking cool. Philadelphia, we stopped by Philadelphia. That shit, everything over on the East Coast is just so fucking cool. I could even see a reason to go to like Florida, you know? But like, just like the further west you go, I just don't. I went to Albuquerque once. And I realized that I probably would be a gambling addict, so I'll never go to another casino. Yeah, you should if you like the outdoors. Pacific Northwest is some of the most beautiful land in the country. I mean, like, I like the outdoors. I just like we went on a hike recently, but like, fuck, eventually maybe I will. Maybe I will. Maybe I need to grow the fuck up, dude. Maybe I need to grow the fuck up and I just need to like enjoy fucking nature or something. I don't know. There's no reason to go to Florida unless you need to get robbed by a meth head. Well, see, like I've never seen blue water ocean, right? The only ocean that I've ever seen was Galveston Beach, which was, it's brown, it's gross, it's nasty. So, how's it going, real Sargon of Akkad? What's wrong with Albuquerque? I kind of liked Albuquerque. It was interesting to see. Albuquerque as a whole, from my experience. I mean, there was a lot going on there, but I was there for like a week. We went to a casino 3 times. I spent my entire $80 I had to my name because I was 22 and worked at a vet office, so I was poor as fuck. I spent all my $80. You'll pick me up from the airport? Okay, gotcha. Wait, Tron. Have we even discussed? I don't think I've never asked where you live. Just because I'd never ask people that because I assume that it's a privacy thing. I don't know why. I always assumed that you lived in New York City for some reason. I was just in my head, you lived in New York City. Going to Glacier National Park in 2 weeks. Looking forward to some insane hikes. You know what? We went to Great Falls National Park. Fuck, I can't remember. Was it Great Falls Park? Yeah. Great Falls Park. We went here the other day. This shit's crazy. Is there one that's closer up? Yeah, this shit's crazy, dude. I was right there. And it's like really, really close to Washington, D.C. If you live anywhere near Washington, D.C., you can just like go there. Yeah, X rocks. Yeah, I know why it's muddy, but it's just like I've never seen like a white sandy beach and like a blue ocean. That seems like something like I feel like I should experience once in my life. 10 prettiest cities in the US. Like I feel like there's so many different parts of New York City that I like, or like ideas of New York City that I have in my head that I just romanticize the fuck out of it. Even though it is a whole, it's a like it's not somewhere where you like I probably wouldn't want to live there, right? Because it's super fucking expensive. I have 4 cats. I'm not going to give up any of my cats, right? No man left behind sort of thing. But like, I grew up listening to like Simon and Garfunkel. Like my uncle loved Simon and Garfunkel. And I walked through Central Park and I just like thought Simon and Garfunkel. And that's enough for me to be happy, right? Um and there's just like never been another place, and like you walk around the streets and you can like identify stuff from like popular media that I liked, or like music that I like, right? And it's just like there's never been another place where I've been like just like, oh, that's really nice. That makes me happy. Maybe living there would make me dislike it, but it's just the very little things, very nice. Nashville is very nice. Savannah, Georgia. I've never been to Savannah. Let's see. Chicago is really cool. I really like Chicago. Chicago is probably, I don't know if I could live in Chicago because it's right on the Great Lakes and the Great Lakes terrify me, but it's a cool little city. I say little city. It's a cool city to like walk around the downtown area of. Savannah is a college town. Yeah, the only time I've ever been to Georgia was for canvassing for DGG back in what, 2022, I think. And I was in Augusta. The main DGG crew was in Savannah, but we were in Augusta with like a smaller cadre of Twitter people. I was a city dweller for a long time. I only moved to the country 3 years ago. Sometimes I miss the convenience, but I'm much happier where I am now. But see, like I know what it's like living in the country, and I do prefer the city because I grew up, I grew up in the country, and whenever I visit my family, they live in the middle of fucking nowhere. And it's like, fuck. You have to have everything you need with you, or you're gonna have a bad time. Here, actually, give me give me like 2 seconds. My girlfriend's been texting me. I'm just gonna go check in and make sure she's chilling. Do we have the shut up? Do we not have the background music? Ah, fucking lame. Here, watch the fucking news for a second, okay? I'm gonna go check on my girlfriend. All right, 1 sec. Tell me if this video is interesting.
Immigration officials reportedly want to ramp up the pace of the immigration crackdown to 3,000 arrests per day. Sources telling Axios that during a tense meeting last week, Stephen Miller and HHS Secretary Kristi Noem demanded that agents triple the number of daily arrests that they were making, despite recent border crossing numbers plummeting. Immigration advocates are warning that this push could lead to more wrongful detentions and also the deportation of undocumented immigrants with no criminal record who have lived in the United States for years and who are otherwise contributing members of their communities. One such case has made headlines in Georgia, where a college student who was wrongfully pulled over wound up detained by ICE for weeks over her undocumented status. Jimena Arias Cristobal is now out on bond, and she's speaking out after she was accused of making an improper turn and lacking a driver's license earlier this month in Dalton, and she was arrested. Following a review of dashcam footage, though, police determined that, quote, Ms. Arias Cristobal's vehicle appeared similar to the offending vehicle, but was not the vehicle that made an improper turn. The citations against her were dropped, but the 19-year-old remained in detention for 2 weeks because of her legal status. Coincidentally, in the same detention center as her father, who's also undocumented. Both were later released on bond and then reunited with their family. But where things go from here is uncertain. Born in Mexico, Jimena came to the United States with her parents at 4 years old. Her attorneys are now exploring options for her to stay in the country, including an investigation they hope could lead to what's known as a U visa, a type of visa set aside for victims of certain crimes who've suffered mental or physical abuse and are helpful to law enforcement or government officials in the investigation or prosecution of criminal activity. False imprisonment, we should point out, is listed as one qualifying criminal activity. We're joined now live by Jimena Arias Cristobal. Thank you so much for being with us, Jimena. First and foremost, just how are you doing through all this?
I'm doing okay through everything, but it's hard.
And I understand that you are scared in part to leave your home. I wonder what advice your attorneys have given you about what you should be doing, your activities as these proceedings play out in court.
They've advised me to stay at home as much as I can, and if I do go out, because they know some people have to go out at times, to be very careful and just be very cautious of my surroundings and know that not everybody has a best interest.
Yeah. I want to kind of step back and get a better understanding for the circumstances in which you find yourself in. When did you first learn that you were undocumented?
I think I was around, it was very early on. I was probably around 6 or 7. My parents made it very clear, and ever since then I've known.
Had they taken steps prior to all of this to attain legal status? Had that been something ongoing?
Yes, it was. I know a lot of people think we've been here 15 years. We had enough time to obtain citizenship, but to be honest, it's very, very hard to obtain citizenship or residency. We tried various times. We hired lawyer after lawyer asking what's the pathway to citizenship, residency, or a permit, and they just told us you have to wait for something to change, or you have to wait for Jimena to get older and get married, or have U.S. citizen children. There was never a clear path for us.
And I just want to make sure, had you ever been arrested before? Had you ever been accused or charged of any crime?
No, absolutely not. I had never been in any type of problem anywhere.
So what do you say to the Trump administration and those who argue that by simply being here, you're breaking the law?
My
right there,
family and
so
I were
it's
aware that
less
we broke
noise.
the law by being here without the proper documentation.
Hell yeah, she's just sitting in front of it.
We tried
Fucking
to take
freak ass
steps
cat.
to do so, and
He's a freak ass cat.
the system didn't really allow us to. So I would just tell them to be a little bit understanding, be a little bit compassionate towards people in my situation who truly don't have a criminal record, who are working, who are a great example of what a citizen should look like. They should give us an opportunity and find a way for us to be able to be here legally.
I remember watching the dash cam video of your arrest. It was
Okay, I'm gonna use this microphone now. Although it looks like it's really quiet. So gain up, gain up. Okay. Let's see. Just letting them continue. Oh, I don't even know what the video is. I just clicked on the thing because it looked like it'd be something we might want to go over. There we are. All right. Are the Smoky Mountains in Colorado? Those are the Rocky Mountains. Where are the fucking Smoky Mountains? It's in Pennsylvania, right? Oh, Tennessee, North Carolina. I'm always fucking nervous. Why did I think the Smoky Mountains were in fucking Pennsylvania? Those are the Blue Mountains, right? No. Blue Mountains? Blue Ridge Mountains. Yeah. Gotcha. All right, I know geography, okay, guys? Fuck you.
And this is part of a movement. There's a lot of money behind it. I can't remember the organization, you'd probably know, just dropped $120 million citing the abundance movement. There's a lot of money behind this. What is the... I know that there are granular problems in each of these different cities, but do you think if there is a villain, and I imagine that there's, a good movement always needs a villain. What is the villain? Is it just we have...
The villain is ourselves. We are our own worst enemy. That is the whole point. What doesn't he get? What is so hard to understand? Does he think that progressives are the enemy? Is that what the only other option is, in his opinion?
Overly restrictive zoning, and
I think you and I probably actually disagree that good movements are built on clear villains. But let me try to give you a good answer to this question. We didn't think the intra-left argument was with you. Just to be really blunt about it, I thought the neo-Brandeisians, etc.
Okay. I don't know if I'm necessarily a neo-Brandeisian, but okay.
You may not be, but they've been.
I don't
they've
know
been
what the
very
fuck that
critical.
means.
We thought the intra-left argument had to do much more with a debate that is very live. Again, it's a sort of New Deal, New Left divide to us between is the right future organizing government to organize the resources of society to create this kind of plentitude of housing, of energy, of infrastructure, these things that we want, of innovation, which is a big part of the book? Or is it more of a small is beautiful future? Is it more degrowth inflected? Is it more that we actually build too much already? Is it that there isn't enough meaning in things? In a weird way, Donald Trump has begun to really embody this other side when he comes out and he says, maybe the kids have too many dolls, right? You got 30 dolls, maybe you only need 2. You got 30 pencils, maybe you only need 5. So our view was not that the sort of fight that was live here was with people who worry about corporate power. It's that if you come from the places I come from, or frankly that you live in now and I live in now, you see a lot of Democrats who show up at the planning meeting and don't want any affordable housing because they don't want it to change their housing values. that you see a lot of people using all sorts of tools of delay in all sorts of directions to stop things from happening. And to us, like, I think one of the really profound fights is, do you think delay as a omnipresent tool of governance is a virtue, or do you think speed is more of a virtue? And if you think speed is a virtue, as I do, I think we should deliver government services much faster. And if omnipresent tool of governance is a virtue, or do you think speed is more of a virtue? And if you think speed is a virtue, as I do, I think we should deliver government services much faster. Then what sort of moves are you willing to make that true?
I'm confused. You were surprised that your fight your fight was with the Neo-Brandeisians. Who did you think? Did you think the fight was like you
there's a big schism in the environmental movement and the environmental community between the side that thinks we need to build our way towards decarbonization and the side that is much more about worrying that when we build things, we're going to change environments, using things like the California Environmental Quality Act or the National Environmental Policy Act to stop things that might.
What would their movement? I'm trying to figure out who you're talking about. The degrowthers?
If you follow or report on any part of the decarbonization fight, you will find that the entire architecture of environmental policy we have is being mobilized against it in order to sue it out of existence, sometimes by...
Sam knows this stuff already. He isn't trying to win in a different way you're thinking. Master trolling, but they call it debating. Sam wants to destroy the movement. Yeah, no, I can... Yeah. But he has to... He's not doing well because he's not offering anything in... opposition or as an alternative,
moneyed interests. But there was a point in time when like a chapter of the Sunrise Movement, I think it was in Mass, signed on to a solar moratorium. There is a lot of conflict among people who see themselves as liberals committed to these goals, etc., on whether building is good or bad. I think that if you're looking very skeptically, but what do you think NIMBYs are?
Well, I think NIMBYs, for the most part, are
retards.
Are wealthy people.
Great. That's a big part of the fight we thought we were about to have.
I mean, the Kennedys,
yes,
stop the windmills.
So now you're making my argument for me. Come on, do it. Give it to me here.
No. But when I look at the common strength,
make my argument, make my day.
Those people and their ability to actually impact policy, I see money.
Okay, but so you look at one strain, and I probably have a broader set. So let me give you one
broader than that?
Let me give you one where we will disagree.
Wait, what is broader than that? Because
it's not just the Kennedys. It's not just the people you're comfortable
I know it's not just the Kennedys, but I'm talking wherever those NIMBYs succeed, I am willing to bet that the relationship between how much money they have and the YIMBYs have, the NIMBYs far more often than not will have more money. I mean, this is like, I know not, but I'm talking wherever those NIMBYs succeed, I am willing to bet that the relationship between how much money they...
Wait, hold on. You're only going to have $2 and like it?
So let's talk about the tariffs. And I want to ask you about something you said this week. Got a lot of attention. You were at your cabinet meeting. You said, quote, I'm going to quote what you said, maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30.
Yeah.
And maybe the $2 will cost a...
I just don't... Even in the moment, he didn't think... There's no way.
$2 instead of $30.
Yeah.
And maybe the $2 will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally. Are you saying that your tariffs will cause some prices to go up?
No, I think the tariffs are going to be great for us because it's going to make us rich.
But you said some dolls are going to cost more. Isn't that an acknowledgement that some prices will go up?
I don't think a beautiful baby girl that's 11 years old needs to have $30. I think they can have $3 or $4. because what we were doing with China was just unbelievable. We had a trade deficit of hundreds of billions of dollars with China.
When you say they could have $3 instead of $30, are you saying
I'm saying they don't need
Americans
$30.
could see empty store shelves?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they don't need to have $30. They can have 3. They don't need to have 250 pencils. They can have 5.
It's just like, man. Like the pencils thing is so insulting because children don't have enough pencils for school. That school supplies are like a major issue in so many school districts across the country. Like education is something that is so important to me. And I've been there at the beginning of the school year where like you see the poor kids and like, the teachers have to, give them the donated fucking free shit because they're the poor kids. And so they get the free shit. And of course they know that they're poor and they get the free shit. So they feel bad about it. Right. And then the teachers don't have enough pencils for them for the rest of the year. So they're doubly fucked. I don't know, dude, the pencil thing is just an insult. It is beyond out of touch. And it just shows like the total, complete lack of any understanding he has of how normal people live. And like their children too, fuck.
But you're basically saying there could be some supply shortages because of the tariffs.
We don't have to waste money on a trade deficit with China for things we don't need, for junk.
Ugh.
They have, and the YIMBYs have, the NIMBYs far more often than not will have more money. I mean, this is like, I know the research on this. Like when these are contested, there's no doubt in my mind that we have regulations but it's to protect.
Trump is coming at this completely differently. He's talking about overconsumption. Yeah, but he's going like, even if he wants to make that argument, he's doing everything in the wrong way, man. Like and this is something like there's a million things that it's very difficult for me to ever like talk about because I don't think that like I don't want to give this to like I don't even want to like concede any part of the argument to conservatives, but like yeah, I look at some of the cheap shit that's in Walmart. It's like, man, this shit, it's super fucking cheap. It'd be nice if we had stuff that like didn't break after, like if we didn't purchase to consume and then toss, right? Like I know that feeling and that desire to have those things, but those things cost more money, right? You're not going to get those things at Walmart because they're not supposed to be at Walmart. Walmart is the buy and throw away place because it's cheap shit, right? Like if you want better shit, you're gonna have to pay for better shit. Maybe we should have a better culture about overconsumption, but I don't think that it should be the president's place. And I don't think that it should be the government's place to dictate from the top down to say, hey, actually, I think that you have enough, right? If we want to change our culture, we should change our culture. And there might be some policies that we can do that might be able to push people in one direction or the other. But like this is ridiculous. If you want to reduce consumption and encourage savings, then do what the rest of the world does. Reduce income tax and raise revenue with value-added tax instead. That's one thing. I need to look into value-added tax because I've taken one econ course for my degree. I haven't had to take another one. I have the option for one more. I'm going to take it. I just want to learn. I want to learn more about the economy. I need to. Okay. Sondsol, are you dating Vosh? I recognize that username. It's been a long time since you've been in chat, I think. How long has it been? If you're bringing up Vosh in this chat, oh Jesus Christ. Okay, it's actually hard to do. What do you do with the people who are kind of dumb and just want to work on production line? Trump is talking to those kind of people. Yeah, but like what's crazy is the people that I see fighting the hardest for that are on like Twitter are people that don't want to work in the factories. You know? I don't even see people saying that they want to work in the factories ever. Like, do y'all know anyone that was like voting for Trump because they're like, I really want to work in a factory? Like, does anybody personally, I know this is anecdotal, does anybody? Are you going to debate Destiny on Timcast soon? Yeah, and then we were going to go on Tucker Carlson's right after that. True. But like, where is this mythical young man that wants to work in a factory?
Hi, I'm Alex. Want to catch a movie? Now, I know what you're thinking. I clicked to watch a video about value-added taxes, not movies. Well, taxes and movies have more in common than...
It's a job that pays the rent. Right. There are a lot of jobs out there that will pay the rent, but they just don't want those jobs, right? Like there are a lot of like I don't know, maybe I'm losing empathy for young men because I was a young man and I see through my own bullshit. I see through my own bullshit excuses from, 5 years ago, like I was a young man and I know the bullshit excuses that we give to ourselves and to everyone else. So like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just becoming a bad person. Mostly seems like right-wing software engineers mad at the idea of female product managers telling them what to do and wanting to restore the manliness of work, but not work in a factory personally. Like, I feel like there's a huge chunk of people like that. And then there's a bunch of people who are from the Midwest that claim that they want these jobs. But like, there have been opportunities for these jobs in those areas. And like, there's a lot of narratives around the amount of manufacturing and industry jobs that we have in the United States and the pay that goes along with that. And man, I'm super just like not convinced about how bad anything really is in that sector. I need to take the time to actually read stuff, but I guess 80% don't actually want to work. They do it because it gives them money to buy stuff. The best they can do is work in a factory. Right. I just don't know anyone that like was hoping for those kinds of jobs to come to their area, right? Like I don't feel like anyone was voting for those jobs for themselves. I feel like they were thinking other people want those jobs, obviously, and that'll increase the economy and then I can finally make it big. I feel like that's how everybody is thinking right now. That they're going to get ahead and everyone else is suckers and they can just get on the fucking YouTube train or they can all get on the fucking influencer train or they can get on the crypto train or something like that. I don't know. It's not a hope, it's a need. Well, I'm just saying like specifically, maybe I don't know what I'm saying. I'll have to think about that. Let's see.
Than you might think. They both generate revenue, they can be really complicated, and some are just blockbusters. Like our old friend, value-added tax, also known as VAT, or goods and services tax. So how do value-added taxes work? Let me explain. With popcorn, obviously. The corn starts out in a field with a farmer growing his crop. He sells it to a company that takes that corn and puts it in fancy packaging. Then, that company sells the packaged products to the cinema, and ultimately to the customer. Now, Let's rewind and watch that again. And this time, let's assume that the country where all this is taking place has a 10% value-added tax. Here's how that works. Our farmer sells his popcorn for $10. But the packaging company buying it, they actually pay him $11. So why the extra dollar? Because that's the 10% VAT. That same thing happens again when the company sells the packaged popcorn to the cinema for a profit. So now the price is $15. But with the added 10% VAT, the cinema actually pays $16.50. And then, finally, the cinema sells the popcorn to the customer for $20. And that customer, once the VAT has been added, is paying $22. So far, so good. But here's an added ingredient that advocates of VAT say makes the system really work. And that's tax credit for businesses.
Why? How the fuck are they saying, how is this an unfair tax burden? Like, people have been saying that it's these value added taxes. How the fuck are these negative for trade? It's like the army in the 90s. People joined because they had no jobs. Now people won't join the army because the risk reward is known now. I would rather be homeless than have PTSD. That's interesting. I just don't know about like the 90s because I was born in 95, so I don't know what it was like back then. So
the tax credit is just an amount that a business can subtract from the VAT it owes the government. VAT makes it so that while everyone on the supply chain pays their 10% in tax, they also get tax credits for whatever's already been paid by those selling to them. So across the whole process, it's a flat rate of 10%. In the end, only the consumers actually pay the VAT since they aren't granted a credit. Oh, great, it's starting. Let's go. So the thing is, let's take this somewhere else. You may have noticed how popular that handsome actor was. Real star power. Well, that's kind of like value-added taxes. They're one of the biggest sources of tax revenue in the world. More than 160 countries have a VAT. Why? Well, there's less tax evasion. VATs are built-in cost. So each business isn't just collecting the tax themselves. So they're motivated to report their taxes honestly to get those tax credits. And it's important that they do. While VAT rates are different in each country, the average VAT raises around a third of a country's tax revenue. So it's an important source of funding for everything from
can we
improving our
get one of
infrastructure
these bad boys, please? Whoa, a third? Hey, hey, Republicans, I know you guys don't like taxes, but I know you guys don't like this thing called the deficit. Would you guys be interested in this value-added tax, please?
countering climate change to creating equality and improving health and social safety nets. But just as with any movie, VATs have their critics. Some say that a VAT is unfair to poor people because they spend most of their income, so they face a higher burden. But a lot of those concerns can be answered by using the money from VAT to help the most vulnerable. Some argue that reducing the VAT rate on basic food could be a solution, but it ends up benefiting those who don't need it and makes VAT collection more complex. That can be avoided by making sure that there's a single universal VAT rate and using progressive income taxes and cash transfers to support poorer households. And that's VAT. Feels like we could have gone.
I like it. We're almost done with this, I think.
Protect people's assets and people who have assets versus people who don't have assets.
The problem with the world economy is everyone wants to sell and no one wants to buy. We had this argument either last stream or the stream before. It's not true. People want to buy American shit, and people do buy American shit, right? We export quite a bit of shit. It's just a lot of it is technology nowadays, right? Or a lot of it's software, right? That's like one thing. And then the other thing is when it comes to like cars and shit, we don't make cars that the rest of the world wants. Like, we don't make cars that Europeans want to buy. The car we make the most is the F-150. You can't drive an F-150 around Europe, not just because of their oil and stupid gas laws, but because their roads are tiny. They don't want they can't drive our cars in their cities. If we want, right? If we want to export more shit, you know? If we want to export more shit that we manufacture or that we, you know, is more like tangible items, because I guess that feels better than exporting software and culture and shit like that. If we want to export more tangible items, then we need to make shit that people want to buy. And it's going to be shit that's more expensive. So it's not going to be the poorer countries that buy it from us, right? There's a reason why we have a trade deficit with Vietnam. It's because they're fucking poor. And I don't need to buy anything from, or I mean, like, they don't need to buy anything from me, because anything that they would buy from me would take up such a large amount of their income, it wouldn't be worth it. They would just have to get something cheaper at home because they're poor. They're peasants. They're under a communist dictatorship. Why do we need trade parity with the communist dictatorship? It's insane. But what do you do with the poor in America? Wait, hold on. You're gonna bought gas from us. Yeah. Also, no one can buy a house because you have. Oh, buy the U.S. government approved houses, which are made to spew tax blood money. I don't understand the second half of that. Sorry. And I don't know what you mean, but what do you do with the poor in America? What do we do with the poor in America? We take care of them because they're in America. We're Americans and we take care of our own, you know?
Assets. And so, like, that is I don't know how you generalize it more than that.
So I think on the NIMBY side, we largely agree, right? And so when I say that we thought there were different obvious sources of opposition, that was a big one. And I mean, again, as you know, there's a whole section of the book about how destructive it has been to turn housing into the central asset class and wealth engine for the middle to upper middle class, right? It's not true for the very wealthy, but that's a thing people know. But here's a place where we probably disagree. In California, where I'm more familiar with the politics, the California Environmental Quality Act, which I think most people agree has overgrown its initial design and is being used to do things like try to stop UC Berkeley from expanding dormitoriums because more students are environmental nuisance. One thing that really defends it is that there's a coalition of unions that use CEQA to sue development in order to get unrelated labor standards concessions. And to me, that is a misuse of power. I am pro stronger labor standards. I am not pro radically expanding how much you can delay every single project in order to get concessions that were not in the initial architecture or vision of that bill. So yes, there is power. The NIMBYs are power and the NIMBYs are related to money, but power is also misused by groups I feel more allied with. And that's one utility of focusing on blue states for me.
We had a union problem in the context of Medicare for all in that fact. Yep. I mean, there's I think you can find that all across a ton of different issues, and you'll have unions on different sides of the same issue because they're
carpenters and builder trades are very different in California.
But I think we both agree that the net value of a strong union movement is a positive, and actually, like, a lot of problems we have in terms of across the board are a function of the deunionization of the country. So there's no doubt, like, we can find specific instances, and I sort of feel like that's, I think, part of what I have as a critique of the book. There are particular instances, but broadly speaking, when we're talking about coalitional politics, which is definitionally
now they don't really do anything. I feel like maybe in the Midwest, but like because I don't know the Midwest. They keep on saying that, but like Houston is where I grew up. You know, like I feel like there was plenty of work opportunities for young men, even if they didn't have a college education. Fuck, I knew a whole bunch of blue collar workers that had plenty of work, decent work, had like I don't know. I feel like and I said this last time, and I hope I'm not losing my soul, but I've started thinking about how hard it is to get people on board with, you know, getting a whole bunch of people on board with your ideas. And it's like, man, you know what? I think that if the Democrats are in power, they should just do like, you know, whatever Trump is doing right now, but just like in a legal way and in, you know, not a stupid fucking way where they like focus on all the DEI shit. They just like focus on the economy and focus on, you know, like stabilizing the fucking world. And they just like go like demon mode for like, you know, 6 months like Trump has. Like, man, you know what? Maybe that's the way to govern. Maybe that's the way to govern. Because I feel like that's what we need right now.
Democratic politics. To move forward and to have power and to actually get things done, it seems to me you can't do it by diminishing the coalition.
So there we genuinely disagree.
Yes.
Like that is truly like I always want to be very honest about points of disagreement. There are places where I think we are actually aligned, and here I think Democrats have become way over coalitional. And I think it is a huge problem that we are not delivering.
Which parts of the coalition do you think should be jettisoned?
This is what
I don't ever.
This is the part of the conversation. This is the part of the conversation that Sam has been waiting for the entire fucking time. Okay, the entire fucking time, dude. Jesus Christ.
It's jettisoning, because I don't think that's how coalitions work. I think they just change issue to issue. But I do not think we should have such a level of proceduralism that forces this many giveaways to this many interests in every process. And again, to use an example where I think we would probably be more.
Hey, what Ezra is saying is, when it comes to housing, I don't give a fuck about what homeowners want, because their interests run counter to building more houses. When it comes to, you know, maybe, you know, education policy, maybe homeowners are a really good, you know, like group of people to have a coalition with while we're, you know, like building education policy, because a lot of people who are homeowners have families and their property taxes fund schools, right? Just off the top of my head. Like, that's what he's talking about. Sometimes you say, fuck the homeowners. Sometimes you say, hey guys, you guys want something here? We can talk about it. But like, if they're running counter to what is better for every single other group, then maybe don't take their concerns into consideration, right? It's kind of like what I'm saying with conservatives. I don't want to actively harm, you know, people in the Midwest, right? But like, you know what? I'm not going to take their concerns, especially after they've been talking to me on the internet the way they have, and the things that they have been telling me the entire point is to fucking cause suffering. Like, I don't care what their concerns are. I think that we should still take care of them, right? They should still, you know, they should be paid out, and, you know, they should be able to eat food and have housing dignity, blah, blah, blah. But like, I'm not going to like sit here and change the entire federal fucking workforce and the entire world economy based off of some idea that we're going to bring manufacturing back to the United States. Like, I'm sorry, you're 1% of the population of the United States. You're 3% of the workforce, and you can do something else. We'll train you. We'll pay for the training. But I'm not reordering the world economy for 3% of the workforce of one of the countries on Earth. It's just not going to happen. There needs to be something, there needs to be a bigger reason to change that, you know? Leftists not taking advantage of an opportunity to do sectarianism. It's not supposed to be like this. Right now, all I can think about is just trying. I can't even take a principled stance on anything right now. I just want good things to happen, you know? Like, I just want good things to happen. Because everything right now that's happening is really bad.
Specific about the interests. Are there interests?
Oh, just let me go back a little bit. So Sam can't comprehend, his mind cannot comprehend the idea that sometimes we make coalition with people, sometimes we don't make coalition with people. Just depends on the issue and the people. Sam has been waiting for this because he thinks that Ezra just wants to cut out all the progressives and all the leftists. That's the entire point of this conversation for Sam. And it's been an hour and 16 minutes. How about this? Almost an hour since they started talking, and they're finally here.
But I do not think we should have such a level of proceduralism that forces this many giveaways to this many interests in every process. And again, to use an example where I think we would probably be
Can you
more
be specific about the interests? Are there interests that go across the board? I mean, that's what I keep trying to get at. Is that like everything is specific?
You keep trying. I think my virtue is specificity, and your critique of me is I'm overly specific. Mine of you is you're overly general.
I'm saying like you're not. You're specific about the granular instances, but you say we need to have less interests. And I want to know who those interests are that we need to have less of.
He can't comprehend. He cannot comprehend. It's anathema. Truly. There does need to be onshoring of jobs, though. You need to be able to make all your own medicine and be able to have all the materials to build a house. Now, there are some concessions that I would make for that argument. Of course, we have to be able to have the protective capacity in times of emergency or times of war to take care of ourselves. I 100% agree with that. And we were making those kinds of steps is the thing. You have to make investments. You can't bully the entire world into getting your way, right? So like, again, I feel like more and more strongly that the Democrats, for how bad their messaging is, they really do know how to govern. They know how to do the industrial policy correctly without fucking everyone over. It is too slow, and there are critiques of the Democrats, but we got to get them back in, dude. We got to get them back in because they know how to do this, and they were doing so good. I want Grandpa Biden back, dude.
I want to have. Let me go back to the Medicare example for a minute because you brought that up, and I think it's a good one. We passed Medicare, sent out those cards in a year. When the Biden administration did two things I think we both probably liked, which is prescription drug negotiations and limiting out-of-pocket lifetime caps, or having lifetime caps for out-of-pocket costs. It took them 3 to 4 years to move it through a regulatory process that we have expanded with things like notice and comment periods and more opportunities for judicial review that can be utilized by, in this case, pharmaceutical companies, but others as well, to kind of slow everything down and force a lot of concession. I want to break that process and make it much more under agency discretion, what they do, and make it harder to challenge. In that case, that's going to hurt pharmaceutical companies, right? So I think that you and I would like it. In the California housing case, I want to make housing construction much closer to by right? I want you to have the right to build the housing you want to build, assuming it conforms to basic standards. This is what we've done in California for ADUs. It worked really, really well. A lot of people will be mad about that. NIMBYs, certain unions, etc. I would like to make it easier to build modular housing. Again, different people will be mad at that. I don't have one answer for you on who I'm trying to screw over because I'm not trying to screw anybody over. What I'm trying to do is focus liberal governance on the outcomes it is promising people and get people to confront why we are failing to deliver them. If you end up with a different answer than me, that's great. But
hey, you know what? Nobody's perfect. All right, Pobody's perfect. All right, I'll take it.
Should be a very granular confrontation with why high-speed rail didn't happen, why the Second Avenue subway is so fucking expensive, why we're not building enough housing. I don't believe you can do this in generalities in the way that I think a lot of people want to. I think that it requires a lot of confrontation with the individual failures we see, and then trying to figure out, okay, do things rhyme across these failures? Is there a level of government that should have the authority that currently does it? That kind of thing.
All right. Now, I've held you really long, and so I want to, but let me just.
Yeah.
So what is then the political, like, what do we organize around as a political movement? If it is in these various instances, people are going to get situationally marginalized in the process, right? I mean, or however gently you want to say. Your interests here, we're going to ignore in these specific cases. What is the political message that's going to resonate and get these different factions of the Democratic Party on board with this as a broad message?
I think every national politician who succeeds tends to be reformist and highly critical of the era of their party that came right before them. Bill Clinton was very critical of the Democratic Party preceding him, sort of New Democrat, etc. Barack Obama was extremely critical of both the way money acted in politics prior to him. You might disagree about his actual administration, and then the Iraq War. Donald Trump was extremely critical of the pre-Donald Trump Republican Party. I think being honest with people that you have noticed the same failures on your side that they have is a very potent politics. Now, I am not a politician. I don't have to win elections. I have a freedom to say things that I think are true, that maybe Pete Buttigieg and Wes Moore and Gretchen Whitmer and whoever don't. So I don't necessarily come here telling you I know how to win elections. I don't think you should believe me or really anybody else who doesn't routinely win elections if they tell you that. But the idea that pointing out, yeah, we fucked up. Yeah, things are moving too slow. Yeah, you don't feel the government is spending your money well. I thought it was incredibly telling that when the New York Times polled this just a couple weeks ago, what you found when you polled people, like, is government inefficient? Plus 18. Is Doge a good idea? Plus 6. Is Doge doing a good job? Minus some significant number. Is Elon Musk doing a good job? Like minus 18 or 20. People believe, often correctly, that government doesn't deliver for them, that it's not spending their money well, that they're not getting what they want out of it. And I think going to them in the first order and saying, yeah, I am going to be relentlessly focused on making sure the roads I promised to fix for you actually get fucking fixed this time. We are actually going to build. We learned something about California high-speed rail, and the next time we do one of these big projects, here's what we learned, and here's how we are going to make it work. Look, I could be wrong. I think it's a potent politics.
Which of the three Democratic presidencies that we've lived under would you rate the highest in terms of your policy set, in terms of accomplishing it?
Obama, but there's things you need to learn from that one too.
And that's a function of the ACA?
A function of the ACA, I think they got a lot done that was very valuable, but I will always say that part of my thinking goes back to that era, because you go back to the 2009 stimulus bill, and what does it promise? Whether it's big headline projects that are going to be the reinvestment side, it's high-speed rail, it's a national set of interoperable health records, and it's a national smart grid, and we are 0 for 3.
I would also argue they screwed up on the housing crisis immensely, and under Obama we lost, 1,000 statewide Democrats, which is why I think we had such a poor bench over in the following 10 years. Some comptroller loses their job because of the wave. I'm not convinced that we didn't get Trump as a function of Obama.
I think a full debate between us on Obama should wait for another day.
That would be a different day. But Ezra, I really appreciate you taking the time. And we will link to Abundance and, of course, your podcast, huge podcast. And the New York Times is also a well-known newspaper.
I've heard of it. Yeah, a strong Northeast regional. Thank you, Sam. I enjoyed it.
All right. Thanks, Ezra. All right, folks, we got to take a quick break, head into the fun half of the program wherein.
Wow. Damn. I feel like God, that was brutal at times. And he's so like nice about it too, you know. It's the fact that he's nice about it while he's asking brutal questions. Do you have an example? I miss these Democrats. Let's see. We're gonna wrap up here soon. We need to wrap up here soon. My throat or my voice is giving out, but yeah. I've only ever seen him be chill. This shit's so fucking dope, dude. Fuck. Want to hear something disgusting? If it's quick. Yeah, bring back the funk. Where are my funky Democrats? Come on. Nair, you have about 45 seconds. Didn't he do the 3 strike rules? I thought that 3 strike rules were state level laws. I don't think that it's a federal thing. I'm not going to say that. Why? Fuck it. Somebody replied to Destiny's... No. Yeah, that... On that note... on that note, we'll fucking end. Is there... Fuck. Ah, damn. I don't know anyone who's streaming. Anyways, I don't even know how to I don't know how to process that either. That's like incredibly fucking disturbing. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm Pisco. Sure. Oh wait, don't you have the ability to raid me out? No, I guess I'll do it. What's his it's /raid and then it's Pisco, right? There we go. All right, pile in, everyone. I'll catch you guys later. I think it's going to be raining the entire week. But keep your eye on the Discord because I might do an IRL stream around the National Mall again. Because it was really fun the first time I did it. So I might do that again. Keep your eye out for that. Yada, yada, yada. Catch you guys later.